This is Jocko podcast number 372 with Echo Charles and me, Jocko Willink. Good evening, Echo.
Good evening.
The fourth and final episode for now about the game. If you haven't listened to 369, 370, 371, go listen to those first. We're going to jump right into the remaining questions, feedback that we got off the first podcast that we did about this. So here we go. Talking about the game. Question comes from Corey. There's a couple questions, actually. Can someone be so far along in a game, career or relationship, for example, that it is not worth it to switch games in terms of return on investment? Love my career choice, but I've seen others who hate their job but often stick it out to retirement.
Yeah. That does
happen. This is the sunk cost fallacy we talked about on one of the earlier podcasts. You've been doing that job for a long time, but here and you've also got to remember that sometimes the sunk cost isn't a fallacy. Like sometimes
right.
You've put guys in the military, right? It's a classic example. You're in the military, you've been in for 8 years, and you decide to get out. Okay, you're getting out. You've invested some time. You've gained some skills. You're going to get out. 10 years, you're like, okay. Still, 10 years, you're still pretty young. You're 28 years old. You can figure out another career. You haven't invested that much into it, and you've gotten some return on that investment already in terms of experience. Usually around 12 years is where people start saying, you put a lot in there. You put 12 years into this. You know your job well. So between 12, 13, 14 years, between 12, 13 years, it definitely seems strange. Mm-hmm. There's something going on that you really have to think about the decision. 15 to 18 years is probably a bad move. Like if you put 15 or 18 years into the military and now you're going to get out, you better have something awesome lined up. You better or be in some terrible situation that you absolutely despise. Because you're giving up a lot. You're giving up the rest of your, money for the rest of your life. And you've already worked. I mean, look, that's what makes it weird, right? If you've done a job for 15 years or 16 years, now you decide that you don't like it anymore. Bruh, that's why we got to do these assessments often and early, right?
I see, yeah.
And then you get people who occasionally get out 18 years, 19 years, and you're like, we don't think that's a good move. Because you can suck it up for another year and get paid for the rest of your life. Even if you hate it for that last year. You're like, okay, cool. Start working on your exit strategy and you'll figure it out. And the military is a distinct sort of example because there is like that 20-year mark where you're going to get your retirement. You're going to get benefits after that. All that being said, a lot of careers take a lot more than 20 years to get retirement out of it. So if you absolutely hate your job, it's probably, you were thinking exit strategy. How can you set something up to move on? So yes, that can happen. Yes. Can you be so far along in a game that it's not worth it to switch games? Yes. But it can happen where you still need to make a decision that you need to move on. So it's just a tough choice.
Yeah, if there's a payoff at the end, like a retirement scenario, that's different than sunk cost fallacy, like how you said. Because sunk cost is kind of like, hey, it's like it's driven mainly by the time, the investment in your head that you put into getting where you are.
Yeah.
So it seems like, oh yeah, I put this much into it. If I just quit and do something else, all that time was for nothing. That's what it is. But if you have like in a retirement, like I said, or some light at the end of the tunnel, where all I got to do is stick it out for this much more, and then I get a very big benefit there. That's different because it's like it's not driven by your past investment. It's driven by, okay, let me just like basically suck it up or try to handle or make the best of this until I get that one payoff. Yeah. So that's true. Because I know literally like friends of the family that are in this conundrum. Because anytime, police have this, military, teachers have this, like where they have a retirement waiting for them. Yeah.
The big difference between military and police is also a little bit, military is like 20 years. At 20 years, you're going to get a retirement. So if you enlisted when you're 18, like I did, you're 38, bro. I mean, but a lot of jobs are, you have to work until you're maybe 30 years. And also sometimes it's work till 65. So if you got to work until a lot of those jobs, you have to graduate from college. So you're 22 when you get the job. Now you work for 30 years in that job. You're 52.
Yeah.
That next career is not like jumping up and down at you, you know?
Yeah.
People are looking at you like, well, do you really want to do this? And how much do we want to invest in you? And you're 52 years old. How much longer are you going to work for?
Yeah.
And you are also like, hey, I've been working for 30 freaking years. Now I got to go do some other. Yeah. So that's why I think, and now this dynamic has changed a lot in recent years. I mean, people change jobs a lot more than they used to. You know, when I was younger, the friends of my parents, they all had the same freaking job. Yeah. Their entire lives. They all got a job and then they stayed in that job. You know, whether it was working at a construction company, both my parents were school teachers. They were school teachers the whole time. 30 years. My dad worked at a school for 30 years. You know what I mean? Like, that's it. That's his job. My mom worked at a school for 20 years. Then she became a principal and a vice principal and all that.
What grade did your dad teach? High school?
High school.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. But like, I'm thinking of the friends of my parents. They all basically had a job. One job. It's not like today where people are, I worked there for 3 years and there for 2 more years and I did 18 months at this place. People move around a lot more. So there's probably less of this unless you happen to get into one of these jobs, like you said. Like teachers are like that. You know, we're out here in California. I think teachers got to work until they're 65 out here, maybe, or maybe 30 years. But it's, you know, you work for 20 years in a school. You look up, you're like, I got 10 more years of this. If you start to not like it, and you got 10 more years, you're sort of like, But you're also, like you said, there's a carrot at the end of it. Plus 10 more years, that's 10 more. You got 10 more summers off, right? That's the teaching job. They like that job because the summers are off.
Not all bad,
But I do look at it. Look, you get one shot, you get one trip through life. And if you're freaking totally miserable, then you start to look around, like maybe you've been teaching for 20 years and you really don't like it anymore. Okay, well, instead of just saying I quit, no, you start saying, well, what else could I do? What other options do I have? What kind of business could I start on the side during the summer? You know, maybe I start my crocheting business and I'm making, what are they, like hot pads to hold the freaking dishes, right? We call them things.
Oven mitts?
Oven mitts, yeah. You start making oven mitts.
Sure.
And maybe you turn that into a business.
Yeah.
Cool, then you can leave your job. But let's not do anything rash. You might have to play the game for a while and decide what you're going to do. But we don't want to be on our deathbed thinking, that's what we don't want. We also don't want to be in the gutter, homeless, saying, freaking Jocko said I should chase my dream. You can chase your, look, if you have a dream like that, it's strong enough that you can do it on the side too. The side hustle, right? The side hustle. The thing about the side hustle is the side hustle is not easy. That's what people think. The side hustle, it sounds like something you're just doing on the side, but it's actually, if you're doing it right, it's taking as much time as your full-time job. It's just that you have to do it in addition to. Don't think the side hustle is something that you do on the side. It's something that you do in addition to with the same amount of effort in most cases. But you can turn the side hustle into something real if you put the effort into it. Not going to be easy. All right. Question number 2 from Corey. You mentioned how we can exist in our own little worlds with titles and status, but when we step outside those worlds, we aren't held in such high regard or recognized for those roles anymore. Obviously, it can be a difficult transition to a different career or lifestyle and feel as if the work you previously put in may be invalidated due to lack of recognition. While in the military, did you have any idea of what possible career path you would have afterwards? Well, the answer is no. I didn't. I thought I would be teaching jiu-jitsu. I thought I'd be surfing and hanging out with my family. And then opportunities opened up. I did my first quote unquote leadership talk about 6 months before I retired. And it grew from there. Leadership talks to book, to podcasts, to products, to companies. It wasn't really pre-planned. But I think, I think one of the challenges that you can have here is when I got out, I didn't say to the world, I served 20 years. I was a leader. you should all respect what I have to say and you should listen to me and I don't have to pay my dues and I deserve XYZ. I didn't say that. I was like, oh, damn. I'm a civilian now. Leif and I always joke about the fact that we did all kinds of leadership talks for nothing, for free. Go travel somewhere. They might give you the travel pay to go and talk to a company for 4 hours in the middle of nowhere. But talk to them about leadership. Do it for free. I wasn't like, that's below me. Look, I was in the SEAL teams. I was an officer in the SEAL teams. Therefore, I was in the military. You owe me. I'm not doing that. No. It's like, be humble is basically what I'm getting at. Be humble. And if you, that part that makes it a different, what he calls a difficult transition to a entirely different career, if you try and think that you're going to deserve the respect, that's where you're going to run into problems. I was like, it's not going to be there. And look, the military, you actually do get like, in some cases, people do give you respect. Oh, you were in the military, you have discipline, you've been in leadership positions. A lot of times that kind of nice greeting that you get isn't real. It's a little bit of lip service. And, well, it's not just lip. Let me rephrase that. They look at it, they're like, oh, Echo, you're in the military, that's great. You've been in leadership positions, you're disciplined, you've been training people, that's awesome. They mean it, but they're not ready to turn over a freaking department to you. Because they're like, yeah, that's great, bro. We're building widgets over here. Yeah. We're not in machine gun fights. Right. So even though they mean it, but they don't mean it. Yeah. They have the respect, but they're not willing to bet on that. Yeah. And so you got to earn it, man. You got to earn it. And that's one of the problems that vets run into is they think like, I used to be in charge of, 1,000 guys in a battalion. Yeah. I had 700 guys in my battalion and I had however many millions and millions of dollars worth of gear. Yeah. I was in charge of a $1 billion Navy ship. Okay. But wow, that's awesome. I really respect the fact that you were in charge of a $1 billion warship. A $1 billion warship was completely under your command. And that's awesome. They do respect it, but they're not going to give you command of this freaking department over here that has an annual budget of $1.6 million. Yeah. So be ready for that. Yeah. Stay humble is what we're talking about. You got to stay humble. And you got to earn it. You got to earn that respect. And if you did a good job when you were commanding that warship or you were commanding that battalion or you were commanding that platoon, okay. You should be able to quickly adapt to this new endeavor and do a good job from a leadership perspective and move up the chain of command. It's like that. So there you go. That's my answer to Corey. Next up, we got David. Play to win, but the game is a zero-sum event. Why? Because we all die and take nothing with us to the next life except our souls. Fair enough. Zero sum, the technical definition is one person wins. In order for one person to win, someone else has to lose. That's what it is. And I don't really think life is like that. I don't think it's a zero sum game. I think I can actually play a good game and I can win. And I actually think my wins can benefit other people. So I'm not sure I really agree with David. I don't think it's a zero sum. I think you can do a good job and you can win. And I think one of the best things that you can do as a person is as you win, take other people along with you. Like, hey, I got a winning team over here. Come with me. Hook a carabiner into my vehicle here and we're going to roll. We're going to keep rolling. Come along. I got room. Let's do this. So I think you can leave before. I think you can go through this life and die and actually leave something very positive with other people that you've encountered in your life and you've helped along the path. Help them play the game. Bring them onto your team. Look, if you're good at playing the game, get some other people in the game with you. This is a beautiful thing. That's what I think, David.
Yeah, that what do they call that? Nihilism, right? Where it's like, hey, we all die or whatever. Yeah. But it's kind of
exhausting, as they say in The Big Lebowski.
Don't you kind of feel like life is kind of like this big balancing act? where it's like, hey, you got some time to make things happen, and then when you're done, you got to pass it on to someone else, and they better make things happen because everyone's time is going to eventually run out, kind of a thing. So that's why, like, when you have kids or whatever, you want to pass knowledge, you want to pass values, you want to pass all this stuff back to them. But they're going to die anyway, right? Okay, that's why it's their job to pass that same stuff, and then their additions to it to other people. It doesn't have to be kids.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's what I was going to say. It's like, it doesn't just have to be your kids. Like, you got a group of people. If you're doing well, cool. Grab some people and bring them with you. Yeah. Like, that to me is a super positive thing that you can do. And here's where I think, again, when you start looking at the strategic game, like the game, the overarching game of life, and you're on your deathbed, I don't think there's anyone that will regret helping other people out, giving people a better future with their own kids, with the people that they affected in their life, the people they impacted. I think that's as good as it's going to get. You lived you don't say, oh, that guy lived a good life because he made a bunch of money and was selfish and kept it all to himself. No one says that. Yeah. No, they say, man, look at what this guy did with the people that he influenced and impacted, and was, whether they made money or not. Oh, the coach in school that helped everyone and pointed them in the right direction, and like all those people have a huge impact. That is how you win the game. Yeah. The more people you help. Yeah, because that game, I mean, technically, in a way, the game never really ends until everybody dies. So it's kind of like, if you think of a chain, maybe not a chain, but just think about like how generations like progress, right? Go on and on. This guy dies, their sons, daughters, people, whatever, they grow up, they die, but they pass it on, in that chain of knowledge, progress, everything that gets passed through time or whatever. It's kind of like you want to evaluate, what was my role in that, So if you're just a selfish person, you literally have no role in it if you're just selfish. No matter how rich, no matter how much weights you lift, no matter how much jiu-jitsu you did, if you're just doing it, even though jiu-jitsu, you have a lot of training partners, so that's in and of itself beneficial. But check it out. If you're a jiu-jitsu guy and what you do is you come and train and you get better and you win competitions and you're the champion, but you didn't really, you never coached anybody, you never helped anybody. Yeah. Who does everybody love? Everybody loves Renzo. Yeah. Because Renzo got, Renzo's got a great competition in MMA and jiu-jitsu, but he spread the word. Yeah. He helped as many people as he can, everyone. And that's when you think about like what you want to do, help more people. Yeah. Train more people. Coach John Danaher, right? What's he doing? He's really helping out a lot of people get better at jiu-jitsu. Yeah. It has nothing to, I don't know if has he competed before? Yeah, back in the day, and actually in a lot of martial arts, from what I understand. But how about the jiu-jitsu? Oh, I don't know. So that's before my time. But he's having a huge impact. Yeah. And Gordon Ryan and his team is all like, oh yeah, like Gordon Ryan said, I'm not competing if John's not coaching me. Yeah. Which is kind of a crazy thing to say, right? Yeah. But that's how much respect he has and how appreciative he is of John Danaher. John Danaher's invested his life into these other guys on his team. Yep. That's what's made him an icon of the sport. Yep. Not because he's a champion himself, but because he's taken and passed it on. Right. Now, at some point, hopefully Gordon Ryan says, oh, I've done what I can do in the competition. Now I'm going to go and I'm going to help as many people get better at jiu-jitsu. Yeah. He's already doing that, by the way. And a lot of us, like in jiu-jitsu or whatever, know that that's kind of part of the natural jiu-jitsu progression. Mm-hmm. And especially now that you can like sell your techniques and, have a career of passing on your techniques or whatever, that's like part of it. And sure, of course, you get paid for it and everything, but think about in the big picture where now all this knowledge came from, let's say it came from whoever, starting at the beginning with the Gracies or whatever, coming all the way down. Then Dean Lister had his thing who affected John Danaher, and they're like, hey, let's pass it on, passing Gordon Ryan. Gordon Ryan influences people with his performances, and he's spreading the same knowledge to other people. BJJfanatics.com? I think so. Yeah, fully. And so now when you look at the big picture, that chain, like let's say you can grab any individual, take Gordon Ryan, right? What role did he play in this proliferation of this new knowledge, improvement of the whole jiu-jitsu community? Yep. What role did he play? Huge role. Huge role. But yeah, you're right. If he just competed and kept it, and just like every one of his actions was solely
to benefit himself and not to like the zero sum game, like for me to benefit, no one else can benefit. So no one else benefited from his knowledge, whatever. Then you ask that same question. Yeah. Then you'd be like, I don't know.
But the correlation is perfect for life.
Yes.
Because if you take someone like in the SEAL teams, if you had someone that was, quote, a great operator in the SEAL teams, everyone that's known as a great operator, they took their skill. Like there's somebody, oh yeah, that guy was a great this, great that at this individual skill. But someone that took that individual skill and then they taught it to as many people as they can, that person gets sort of elevated in people's minds. Yeah. In the business world, okay, cool, you were successful in business, but if you were successful in business and you didn't help share and start other businesses to help people grow, then people don't really appreciate what you're doing. So this is one of those questions that I got asked at one of the Jocko live events a few years ago. That was 2020. Actually, I'll always remember because it was right before COVID kicked in. Sure. But it's like, oh, what's the meaning? What's the meaning of life? Like the basic question. It's like, oh, help other people out. And this is what it boils down to. So when you're playing the game, you need to put into your calculus at some point what you need to do is help other people. Yeah. Because if you're not helping other people and you're keeping it for yourself, you're going to lose the game in the end.
Yeah.
You're going to lose the game.
Yeah.
So put that into your schedule that when you get the opportunity to help someone out, you're going to help them out.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. So that, the old, and I know they probably mean it to mean more than just this, but how it can come off when they're like, hey, you can't take it all with you, right?
True.
It's like, bro, that goes beyond like the intention even of having it. And if that is the intention, like that's like a bad intention just to think in that way, where it's like, yeah, because the whole reason of like, it's not the whole reason of life, but like part of like the massive reason of life is to get what you can, learn what you can, everything. And then it's like if you had a blender, yeah. Right? Here's the thing. If you had a blender, you're blending smoothies, you're blending milkshakes, you're blending like all this stuff, and this blender is freaking awesome. And you're maybe you're making stuff for your kids, your neighbors or whatever, but you're going to die now. Take that blender, you say, hey, you young kid, you get this blender now. Here's all the recipes. I'm done. You take it from here, kind of a thing. And I'm done, I die. They do the same thing. So now that blender, it's like, oh yeah, if I took that blender with me to the grave, it's kind of like that blender doesn't help nobody. Mm-hmm. But now you pass it on until they die, they pass it on, and that blender keeps on blending.
Yep.
See what I'm saying?
Yep. And hopefully you're teaching people how to build a blender, and then they can give away 4 blenders.
Yes.
So when you die, you don't just have one, you give it to 4 people.
Now you're talking like, big time stuff. That's and there's levels to it. Yeah. Not everyone's going to do all that, but as far as the essence of it all, you don't take it with you. You pass it on to the next guy.
Pass it on, man. And man, you got to be a real kind of sad person when you're trying to hoard that information. Yeah. You're trying to keep it all.
Yeah.
That's going to hurt you.
Yeah.
It's going to hurt you.
It kind of goes for everything when you think about it. And obviously this isn't a like super cut and dry, but like when you're one of those people who don't want to share info, you don't want to share, even like people who hoard like resources, just to hoard it, just to have it all, and it's like just that way of being is kind of like, ooh, doesn't that, it kind of goes against the whole thing.
Yep. And there's got to be a way to work through that. If you grow up where you're living in a life of scarcity, when whatever it is, whether it's knowledge or, you had to fight and scrap to figure it out and you finally figured out, or you had to fight and scrap to make money and you finally got money, or you had to fight and scrap to get skill and now you finally got skill. And that would happen with jiu-jitsu, right? Mm-hmm. The jiu-jitsu person that like came up and had to figure it out and got treated like crap by his instructor, that person, there's a decent chance that person now treats other people like crap and doesn't share anything and doesn't show how you did that arm lock. Mm-hmm. There's also a decent chance they go, I'm not going to be like that guy.
Yeah.
So, and that's the same thing with business. It's the same thing with life. Like I had to freaking earn it. And therefore, Echo, I'm not going to show you my little tricks of the trade. I'm not going to show you the way I did this marketing campaign, because you got to figure it out. But if I go, yeah, it was hard for me, I'm actually going to hook Echo up.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing. That's how you win the game. All right, next question from Walter. How do you think Sun Tzu viewed the game, in parentheses, long game, and played it? And how is that different from the way we play it? I think that he was, obviously a strategic thinker. So yes, he was thinking about the long game. He saw the game and he made basic. I hate using the word basic. I actually changed when we would teach in land warfare. We had like something like basic maneuvers, and I changed it to fundamental because people think basic is not good, but they actually think fundamental is good.
Yeah.
So Sun Tzu pointed out fundamental theories of the game and principles of the game that, you got to understand yourself. You've got to understand your opponent. You've got to retreat when you need to retreat. You've got to re-attack when you're able to. Don't attack this enemy strong points. All these things. He understood the game. And I think there's just alignment. I don't think there's any major outliers that he had some big different thought. Well, it's all universal. If you know the way broadly you see it in all things. Michael asks, is the game the path? Or is the journey as we venture, or is it the journey as we venture down the path? As much as my kind of instinct was like, yes, kind of like wanting to get, but I would say actually not really, because there's a lot of different games being played. I think that's the main thing. Like there's a lot of different games being played. You're playing a game at work. You're playing a game with your relationships. You're playing a game with your health. You're playing a game, there's just all this, a bunch of, and then you got the big overarching game of life. Now, when I think of the path, capital T, capital P, right?
Sure.
This to me is the focus on ourselves of getting better, right? Getting better. Health, stronger, faster, smarter, creating stability, taking responsibility. To me, those things in life are the path. The path is doing the right things for the right reasons, right? To make sure that you are doing the right things. And I would say that one of doing the right things is helping other people, is trying to teach, trying to pass on what you've learned. So I guess you could stretch it a little bit. But now, but that being said, generally when I refer to the path, I'm talking about the path of discipline equals freedom. The path of having discipline in your life to do the right things, do what you're supposed to do, and move forward. Be better, be faster, be stronger. Here's the thing. Unless you do that for yourself, you're going to have a lot harder time helping other people. If your life is falling apart, it's going to be hard for you to help other people out. So I don't really equate the game as the path. I don't really think they're the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't feel like it. I feel like the path is like this dynamic framework that you can kind of follow and utilize to put yourself in a position to perform better in the game.
Right. Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah, and that's one of those things too, is like, sure, there's sort of a universal path that we can all kind of nod our heads and say, yeah, but your path might be a little bit different than mine.
Yeah.
So there you go. There's my answer.
Yeah, as you kind of, like, there are some fundamentals in the path.
100%.
There's there's just a handful of them though, the health thing, but health can look different. So if you just keep going a little bit more advanced in the health part of it, then that can look different for a lot of people, but the health thing is a factor.
Yeah.
And, the relationships, the learning, the education part of it, and all this stuff. The discipline part of it, just that idea of discipline. Discipline's going to look different for everybody.
Yeah.
But the fact that you can be like, hey, I'm going to do what's right now so I can have that payoff later in many ways, that's really, the dynamics of discipline.
It's the path of discipline. Ultimately, the path is the path of discipline, and where it leads is to freedom.
Yeah.
That's what the path is. The path is the path of discipline, and where it leads is to freedom. Yeah. And that applies to everything that is going on in your life. Yeah. Health, fitness, business, finances, relationships. It's all of those to reach a point of freedom in any category. You have to be on the path of discipline. So there you go. Next up, Forrest. is it better to play this game solo, multiplayer, or does that matter season to season? Cool. Look, there's some games that are solo. There's some games that are multiplayer. There's some games that are played against other people. There's some games that you play against yourself. So, again, the whole reason for this series of podcasts was for people to gain the perspective that what you're doing in life, in many different aspects of life, can be looked at as a game. And the failure to look at it as a game means you're not exactly sure what the rules are. You're not exactly sure how to advance. You're not exactly sure what the goals are. And without goals and without knowing how to advance and without knowing what the parameters are, not knowing what the rules are, it's hard to know what's happening. So this idea of looking at a relationship, looking at a job, looking at an education, looking at your college class, looking at life, looking at real estate, looking at any of these things as a game gives you a perspective to move and do better in that arena, whatever that arena is. So some of them are solo. Fitness is kind of a solo thing. Now, can you play it as a team? Yeah, you can get a couple more people that want to work out with you, that want to train with you, that are going to help you. Have you ever, Echo Charles, have you ever had like a legit workout partner?
Yes, almost. Yeah, I mean, aside from I would say most of my life, but I'm trying to think now. I've been working out alone, but yes, 100%.
And who would you more easily let down and not show up for the workout? Yeah. Your workout partner or yourself?
Okay, my workout part. The short answer is I would let down myself 1,000 million %, and I would never. In fact, I don't even know if I ever had. I mean, unless I was sick. So I mentioned so one of my main workout partners in life was a guy named Squatty Lewis. Scotty Lewis, aka police. He's a policeman in the Big Island.
Right. You're not getting the nickname Squatty for no reason.
For no reason. Exactly right. So, and then we had another guy named Rinda Brooks. It was three of us.
Yeah.
So Rinda Brooks could bench more. Squatty Lewis could squat more than everybody. And then I was the more balanced guy who was like, but we're all pretty close. But, bro, 100%. So I would even say the multiplayer scenario is, if you can pull that off, you want to do that more often than not. If you can pull it off.
Totally.
And and even with that, like, you got to kind of choose the right people, because you get, things can arise that might work against you sometimes. But I'm saying if you can pull it off, multiplayer and fitness, that's a good one, right? Where it makes it not only more enjoyable, the hard parts, it makes it more enjoyable, but yes, you're way more accountable. Mm-hmm. There's like so many dynamics that are there with multiplayer, with more people, than it is by yourself. In fact, you can find yourself, and actually this might even be a skill to develop, but if you're not looking at it that way, you'll have additional struggles by yourself, like additional challenges that you might not need, if you're trying to reach a certain goal. But with like other people, if you guys are on the same page, you can just blow through stuff.
Yeah, having that team aspect. So maybe to amend my initial answer, it's like, yeah, there's solo games, there's multiplayer. You're probably going to be better off in most scenarios getting a couple people, getting a team, being multiplayer.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty rare you're going to find some stuff. And of course, you could drill down and go really deep and be like, technically, that's by yourself. But you're going to be hard pressed to find a scenario where you'd be better off alone rather than with a guy who's down for the cause as much as you aligned. And not to mention 3 guys or 4 guys or a whole team, like multiple people will get it done better than one person most of the time.
That's just the way it is. So there you go. If you can, get that multiplayer game going. Next one from Ray. What advice do you have for entering the game later in life, starting a business at 41, feeling like I lost some key years to make hay while the sun shines? Thanks, Jocko. Huge part of the reason I got it together is your podcast. Well, that's awesome. But it didn't have anything to do with me. That's you. You got it together. I didn't do it. So here's the thing. You're 41 years old. Guess what? You have some experience in life. So utilize that experience. And be smart. Also, you have to pay attention because you're 41. You've got limited time for reboots, right? You got limited games. You got limited number of games you're going to play from here on out. Like you probably lost the opportunity to play 2-3 games. Now what's cool is you learned a lot. You may not what happens now, you look back and you're like, man, I missed out on that game. I missed out. But now you know. You know what you missed out on. So, do a little bit of risk mitigation, a little bit extra risk mitigation. Lean a little bit more conservative than you would if you were 22. You're 22, you're like, I don't care, I'll live in my car, right? Well, you're 41, I don't know, you got a wife and kids, like you're not living in your car. So you gotta mitigate risk a little bit. What the good thing is, when you're 21, you're spending money on freaking booze and clubs. You're not doing that when you're 41. You can be smarter. So you keep that in mind. Know what the minimum standard is. I joke, or I don't joke. I often tell people that, when I was starting businesses and whatnot, I told my wife, I was like, hey, if this doesn't go well, we might be just like living in our RV, traveling up and down the coast of California, surfing and just hanging out. And we won't have a house or anything. And she was like, that sounds kind of fun. I was like, okay, cool. So know what the minimum standard for your family is and what the minimum standard for you is. And then don't, take that money off the table. Take that lifestyle money off the table to make sure that you're good to go. There's a temptation when you're 31, you're like, oh, I got this business going, it's going well, I'm gonna mortgage the house. Well, when you're 31 and you mortgage the house and you lose it, cool. Your bankruptcy clears by the time you're 7 years. So you clear that BK and now you can come back, you've got a steady job, you can get another house, right? But if you're 41 and you mortgage the house and then you lose it, now you're like 50, bro. We don't want to be doing that. So that's why I'm saying risk mitigation. That would be the advice for entering the game a little later on. Pay attention. Next question from Mike. The cool part about life as a game is that there are no 3 strikes and out. As hard as life can be made, or it is the easier fact known. As hard as life can be or made, it is the easier fact known. Not quite sure 100% there. There's always something else you can do. Yep. Just don't quit. Yep. That's true for the most part. We can screw things up permanently. And look, you can screw things up permanently and you can try to recover from them and you can move your life in a better direction. But like you get a DUI where you kill a freaking kid on a bicycle and you go to prison and you come out with no license and guilt, like you can do better, but you're going to have a hard time. Life is going to be hard. You get caught with, drugs, doing something stupid, coming across the border, right? I mean, you can do some dumb stuff. You can get, you're drunk. You punch some guy in the face. He falls down, hits his head on a curb. He dies. And it's on video. And everybody sees that you started it. And now you're going to jail for manslaughter. So just keep that in mind. Just keep that in mind. There are things that you can do that's kind of like strike 3. And look, you can still get your life together. You can still move it in the most positive direction. Like you can definitely move things in a positive direction, but you're going to be in a tough spot and it's going to take a long time to recover. So that's why let's be smart. How many of those things that I just mentioned were just alcohol involved? Man, alcohol, it's a big one. Yeah. You got rid of that. If you took that out of your life, or if you took that out of society, there'd be so many less people doing dumb stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, you go watch whatever kind of fights, the fights on YouTube.
Yeah, hell yeah. Best street fights
or whatever.
It's like a Twitter account, I think.
But occasionally you'll see 2 guys that are like sober and squaring off, like a road rage incident. Like they're both sober. Yeah. But man, a lot of them, they're just drunk in the streets.
Yep.
Did you see that one where that freaking guy got his throat cut?
No.
Oh, it was like in Australia. And, guys just out. They're drunk. Obviously, when everyone's not totally drunk, but you can tell they're drunk and they're talking shit to each other. And, the guy kind of gets in another guy's face and the guy has a knife. He's like, oh, what are you going to do? Cut me? And then they kind of walk away. And you're like, oh, okay. And then confrontation comes back. They start yelling at each other. And the dude just like in a split second cuts the dude's throat. And the guy kind of grabs his neck. He doesn't really react other than grabbing his neck, and you can see blood just pouring out.
Yeah.
And he grabs his neck. He holds his neck while standing for 2 seconds. Then he slumps to the ground, and he's dead.
Yeah.
You know? Whew. You take alcohol out of that, neither one of these people would have done this dumb shit.
Yeah.
Man, and you think, and it's all on video, so the guy that did the knifing is now in jail for the rest of his life. It's just terrible. So, yes, I agree with you, Mike. There's no 3 strikes. Like you can fail this business. You can break up with this relationship. You can start a career that didn't go very well. All those things can happen. All those are recoverable. Just don't don't do anything really stupid.
Yeah. A lot of those, a lot of mistakes that we make in life are very avoidable. Like, I understand, like, hey man, you made the best decision. It turned out to be wrong and all this stuff or whatever. Little lapses of judgment, like here and there. But yeah, like there's some big ones, like how you said that, like the DUI one, and because that's super common, man. DUI, super common. So it's like that's a completely 100% avoidable thing. Yep. Even a street fight, isn't 100% avoidable all the time. But a DUI, straight up is. Yep. So the alcohol element of it makes those avoidable problems harder to avoid.
Yep.
Freaking influence.
Be careful.
It's like this powerful bad influence. That's what it is.
Yeah. Just like kind of puts your judgment to sleep for a little while.
Yeah.
It's like in bed and your judgment wakes up later when you're in prison and you're in like the jail cell.
Yeah.
And your judgment wakes up and it's like, bro, what did you do? And you're like, it's kind of like, I hope you didn't do anything that stupid. I hope you just got into a little scuffle with a bouncer and you got locked up. I hope we're not in here for manslaughter.
Your judgment wakes up,
right?
Like more like he was asleep the whole time.
Yeah,
right?
no, it's like
it wakes up. What I miss?
Yeah, what I miss?
Like
we're wrong.
Where are we right now? Yeah, that's true.
I will say, like, I always had a little voice in the back of my head. Even when I used to drink, I'd be like, it's a good time to leave. Like, hey, grab the guys and get out of here.
Yeah.
Like this isn't going in a good direction. Time to get. Hey guys, let's roll.
Yeah.
I always had that little something in the back of my head.
Yeah.
Thankfully.
Yep.
Some people, that judgment, man, he's going to sleep real quick.
Gotta watch out.
Get that sauce in there. All right, Matt says, how do you manage multiple games that are going on? Yep, prioritize and execute. And listen, here's the thing with prioritize and execute is as you're doing it, you have to have an open mind and pay attention to the feedback that you're going to get, right? Multiple games. You got your job, you got your family, you got your fitness. There's 3 of them, right? We're playing all these games: job, family, fitness. And so at some point in your life, your job is going to be more important. You got a big project that's due, and like it's with a huge client, or it's you're building something and you got a big concrete pour that's going on and you got to get everything ordered. You're working from some 16-hour days getting ready for that. And your family is going to get put on the back burner. Your fitness gets put on the back burner a little bit. But listen, you got to pay attention when you come home after that concrete pour happens and you did it and successful, and now, okay, it's time to like be home on time. It's time to cut the boys loose for a little while and like, hey, let everyone go have dinner with your family. Oh, you got to go to the wrestling match tonight. Go to the wrestling practice. Just, check in with the kids, see how they're doing. Maybe your fitness fell off a little bit for 4 or 5 days. So you got to pay attention to that. You got to be attuned to the feedback that you're going to get. The feedback you're going to get from your, in this particular case, your fitness. You're like, yeah, I feel like crap. Mm-hmm. I went up and visited my daughter.
Hell yeah.
And, we went out to some like nice restaurants and whatnot. And we came home and I told my wife, I was like, I might be getting sick. I don't feel good. And I was like, oh no, I ate like French fries yesterday and like pizza or pasta, something like that before. And I was like, oh, that's like 2 days of kind of junk.
Yeah.
And sure enough, I came home and I did like a little fast and then just ate clean for a day. And I was like, oh, I'm actually fine. Yeah. I just felt like junk because I ate like junk. So I also had some German chocolate cake. Are you aware of this situation?
Aware of German.
We got one and we kind of passed it around the fam. But it was really good.
Yeah.
But that's another thing. You don't feel good. You feel good while you're eating it.
Yeah.
But then when you're done eating it, well, actually, it's about like maybe the next day. Mm-hmm. You feel, I don't know. We passed it around. I probably had 7 bites of it.
Yeah.
A lot of frosting. I kind of went deep on the frosting.
Yeah. Is there coconut in that one?
Yes, there's coconut.
Right?
Yeah. But it's one of these. You ever been to a place where they go, "Oh, you got to try this thing, whatever." That's like their specialty. So it's one of those places.
Yeah. I dig it, man. And 7 bites, it's not too bad. If you ate like 2 whole ones or something, then you might be in trouble.
But then I had this bread came out, and I was like, because look, bread. Let's face it, you get like that hot bread from a restaurant.
Yeah.
And it's got like they put butter with the flavor in it of some kind.
Oh, big time. Yeah.
So when that shows up, sometimes that can be. Sometimes you go, discipline equals freedom. Here's the freedom part. I'm gonna get me some of that.
Yeah.
But it's got to be good.
Yeah.
For me, like I want it to be really. If it's okay.
You're passing.
That's
so funny. I'm the exact same thing.
Okay. Well, there you go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Bro, there's a place called Keoki's Paradise on Kauai, South Side, if you ever go.
Oh, hell yeah.
So instead of bread, they have muffins, and they're like kind of sweeter. I think they're like I don't know. They have maybe some carrot shards. I don't know what. They have something in there, and they're sweet muffins. And then they bust out
carrot shards.
when you shard it, or what do you call when you grate the carrot?
I hear you. I'm tracking, bro. I'm tracking those carrot shards.
Anyway, these muffins are like really good. Instead, and just like you, where it's like, if they bust out bread, and I look at it, and the crust of the bread is kind of hard, and like it's just normal bread, bro. I'm passing every day, every time. But sometimes, and it depends. There's different kinds of where like, there's some good bread scenarios that you're like, okay, here's the freedom part.
Well, that's like pizza.
Yeah.
I mean, the range of taste of a good pizza versus a not good pizza, that's a huge range.
So
and
true.
Pizza, let's face it, is kind of not good for you. Yeah. But there's some pizzas you could eat it and it just tastes like crap.
Yeah, not even worth
just
it.
junk. Why would you be eating this? Yeah. Then sometimes there's a couple places where that pizza, let's roll. give me a piece of that.
Right, you know what pizza I freaking love, and you're probably not even going to be happy about this, is Papa John's.
Okay.
It's like a full-on chain. Like it's probably like a lot of artificial this and that in it. I don't know. I don't know the recipe, so I don't want to make like that. But
you ever been to Felipe's Pizza Grotto?
Yeah.
In San Diego.
Yeah,
what do you mean?
I dig it. I dig it. But I don't know.
That place is next level. It's next level.
Yeah, I dig it. I've always thought Lucadia was the best place in San Diego.
Good. Good. Yeah. But I'm just saying.
Bro, there's a place called Brick Oven Pizza on Kauai. We're going back to Kauai. Yeah. Bro, really. That's the level, what do you call it, in the top tier.
Have you ever seen Dave Portnoy does like the pizza review thing?
No.
Oh, yeah. He just like tries pizza wherever he goes.
Yeah.
Seems like a good idea.
Yep.
That
is a good idea.
It's like a good excuse to just eat all kinds.
Yeah.
And the other cool thing is like he basically just has a few bites of it.
Yeah.
And then maybe you go, it's not bad. And he rates it.
Yeah.
And then he goes, this one's a 6.2. But if a 6.2 to me is not worth eating.
Yeah.
You get something that's
it's basically 9-10.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
So you got to pay attention to the feedback that you're getting.
Yes.
And make sure that you make adjustments in your priorities. Because if you come home from work after you've been pouring concrete and it's been a big part of the job and you've been working 18-hour days for 6 straight days, getting ready for the pour and then the pour, all this stuff. Now you get done with that, you got to pay attention to your family who you've been blowing off. And you got to say, this weekend, guess what we're going to do? I'm not going to take my cell phone with me and we're just going to go on this camping trip and we're going to chill. So pay attention, be attuned to the feedback that you're going to get. That's how you manage these multiple games that are going on in life.
I like the idea of subtracting useless stuff. And sometimes it can be hard, especially if you really like doing it or whatever. I was talking to Keenan Cornelius, our friend, jiu-jitsu guy. And we were talking about how, like, we're catching up a little bit. And he mentioned this, how he subtracted some stuff out of his life.
Like what?
Video games was a big one. So if you like video games, let's face it, I don't know where you're going with.
Yeah.
It's crazy how video games are so probably, even when I was young, I played video games or whatever. But I guess it's kind of like in a way, kind of like alcohol, where it's like, man, it's surprising how successful that is as a product. Yeah. And it gets you literally nowhere. But it's like, dang. But there is something to it for sure. But anyway, the point is when you when you subtract these things that aren't conducive to, especially when you talk about managing multiple games, bro, if you're managing multiple games, what are you doing over here with the video games or whatever you're doing?
Whatever that thing is.
That's jamming you up.
The booze.
Yeah.
The video games. Did you ever get addicted to video games? Or did you ever play more than like an hour, 2 hours a day?
Yeah. No, I would not say I was addicted. It was just, I was a kid. I was young. I was a kid and freaking, the game Tekken. You ever heard of that? Tekken?
I think I've seen like the graphics of it, but I don't think I ever played it. Yeah,
the original PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2. That was my era of video game involvement.
We were so... You know my dad's like cheap, right?
I do now, yeah.
Yeah, but he was also kind of into computers early on.
Yeah.
And so he had a Commodore 64.
Hell yeah, I had one of those.
But he had this game. So the games were all like kind of cheap imitations of real games.
Oh, yeah.
And we had one that was called Amok, A-M-O-K.
Okay.
Amok. That's probably the only video game I played.
What is it?
I don't know. You ran around in some underworld, tried to stay away from the monsters or something.
Yeah.
But the opening thing, it talked.
Okay.
The opening, it said, another visitor, stay a while, stay forever. And then it started the game. Right. But it was kind of that back in the day, having a thing that was talking was kind of legit.
Yeah.
You were like, this thing might be kind of my friend.
It actually sounds like a kind of crazy game.
Yeah.
Commodore 64.
Commodore 64.
Remember Atari?
Yep.
Like, did you ever have an Atari?
No, and that was the thing. Like, normal people got Ataris, but we didn't.
No. Well, I don't think games were as addicting back then.
Oh, no.
I think they were just they're fun little recreational, kind of real basic, you know.
They have an Atari thing where you just get like the Atari joystick and all the games are in it.
Yeah, I have that. Not Atari though, the Nintendo. I have the Nintendo one. And yeah, I play that. Dr. Mario. Because there's some games that it's like, oh, this takes some actual like math, like geometry, like skill. Like Tetris, Dr. Mario, like these kinds of games, right? And they can be pretty fun. But you can tell it takes like a different type of skill than like a Tekken.
But I would say the most addicted person to Tetris was still not like they started to hone how you get the dopamine. The dopamine distribution in those games. Where now, I mean, guys, we had a guy come to the muster, great dude, who had been addicted to video games, and he was like embarrassed to tell me about it. You know, he's like, I'm embarrassed to tell you this. I was addicted to video games. He goes, you're not going to understand this. He's like, I'm embarrassed to tell you this. You're not going to understand it at all. But I was addicted to video games, and I was like, well, what do you mean? He goes, I played whatever it was, 13 hours, 14 hours, 15 hours a day. Wouldn't sleep so I could play. Had spent all my money on it, like all that stuff. And he realized it was an addiction. He listened to the podcast, realized it was addiction, and said, okay, I got to stop this shit. And he sold all of his games, sold his console, used the money to buy a ticket to come to the muster. And he told me that story. But
perfect.
To your point, when you're trying to got these multiple games going on and you got something that's encroaching on your time that isn't giving you any benefit, that's when we talk about on one of the last podcasts about this subject, you're doing something that doesn't help your long-term strategic goal, get it out. Get it out. It's not worth it. So get it out of there.
And you hear that too, where it's like, oh yeah, if you're binge watching a Netflix series, it's like that's kind of a version of that, where it's like, yeah, you know. So you gotta take action on that kind of stuff. The video game thing, the new video games, and I'm sure this is their gig as far as video game creators. They make you care about what's going on in the game. So when you're not playing it, you still kind of care about that game. You know, it's like that kind of level stuff. Like even you see the graphics nowadays?
Yeah, the graphics are insane.
Yeah, they're like, I remember when we used to have Nintendo, right? The regular Nintendo, and then we'd go to this place called the Fun Factory. Basically a video arcade. And those big games, you know, the stand-up ones, the graphics like were so good. Yeah. So good compared to the Nintendo. Nowadays, like you can have that. In fact, my brother has one of those big consoles, and just like how the Nintendo, all the games are in it. But you look at those old school games like Rastan. You ever heard of Rastan? Yeah, that's it's like a Conan guy.
Okay.
That was my favorite game. Just super basic. Jump and strike. You can get different weapons, but it was awesome. And basic or the graphics were really good. But now you look at those graphics compared to like the graphics now look like straight up movies.
Oh yeah,
like actual motion pictures.
Oh yeah, for sure. No, I've seen them.
Freaking
impressive.
Ridiculous.
Get those things out of your. Don't play those games. Play the real games. Next question.
Oh wait, that's what Keenan said there.
What?
He was like, "This is how I shifted it." He with the video games, he was like, instead of like improving the status of my character in my video games, I'm now the video game in my own, or I'm now the character in my own video game. So now I'm trying to improve and we went down the rabbit holes of like, there are so many things you can learn. Like you let's say you have, you're very robust skill set, right, Jocko? Let's say you have 6 definite skill sets. Like, of course, there's little micro skill sets within them. Let's say you have 6 marketable skills, we'll say. Like black belt level, brown, black,
Dang,
competitive.
Dude.
We'll just say.
I don't think that's a big number. Okay. I don't know anybody that has 6 black belt level skills in their life.
And that's part of the point. Where, okay, let's say you got 4, right? Okay. That's a lot. 4 is a lot.
I think 2 would be pretty legit.
So marketable skills, you're exactly right. 1 is, I would think anyway, I don't know, I'm not the knower of all things, but it seems like 1 is about the standard. If you have 2, bro, you're in excellence level. Now you have 3. Okay, so of course it takes a while to get a black belt level. This is like the
classic like Renaissance man, right? That's it, right?
Right.
Someone that's got multiple black belts in multiple skill arenas.
Now the reality is you don't have to be a black belt in everything. And that's how the conversation started. He said I was a polymath. That's the word. And I was like, what does that mean? He was like, you have like usable skills in a bunch of different arenas and they all can play. And that's how we got on the video game talk. But it's like, man.
Wait, he said he was a polymath?
No, he said I was a polymath.
You, Echo Charles?
Echo Charles, yeah.
Were a polymath.
Yeah.
Meaning he had multiple skills?
That I had. Okay, so me and Keenan, I know Keenan from back when I used to make videos for Metamorph, the thing. But I really hit it off with that guy when I met him, where he'd like be talking about something, but like, oh yeah, and I kept in touch with him, and then we start training to become friends, or whatever, just over the years. But he was one of these main guys that I would like randomly have thoughts and ideas with, and then I'd like call him and like we'd just talk. Like I'd go to like drop something off at his gym or something, or see somebody or whatever, and wind up talking to him for like 2 hours in his office about just all kinds of stuff, So he's like one of these guys, and then I hadn't seen him for a long time till today, like in person. So he was like, "Oh yeah," so we're catching up, is what I'm saying. Check. And then it's like, "Oh, what have you been doing?" And it's like, like obviously there's obvious stuff that he knows that I'm doing because he's online or whatever. Then there's like the additional stuff, and so we're just kind of catching up. That's when he was like, "Oh, you're like a polymath. You do this, and you like literally is part of your job, Right. So anyway, so the point there is, in life. Like there are so many opportunities and ways to learn new stuff where here's one. I went down this rabbit hole on. This isn't one of my marketable skills, obviously, but being a plumber. So the idea of being a plumber, like some people are like, oh yeah, that's basic stuff or whatever, but I never got into plumbing. I don't know how that stuff works. So like you can go to like on YouTube and there's so many resources just to learn so many things in life where you can get all those skills, whatever skill you want.
Yeah.
Now, if you can shift your mindset to be like, hey, that's my game. That's what I'm doing. I don't want to improve the speed of my character on this video game. I want to improve the speed of my character in real life.
Yeah,
or this or like this. Oh, now my video game character can cast spells, which is freaking sick.
It's like, oh, I can actually join copper pipe because I learned some skills.
Exactly right.
I got really lucky when it came to the I worked construction for a little while when I was a kid, and like the guy I worked for, he did everything. Yeah. And so that means I did everything, right? We built whole houses from nothing to built. Yeah. That means you have a little hand in everything, and man, what a good experience. Because I did, I did plumbing, I did electrical, I did framing. I did finish, and look, and I'm not good at any of these things.
You're not black belt carpenter?
Especially finish work. Like I don't like finish work. That's where you're like, little. I don't have the mindset for it. Framing, I like. Yeah. This 2x4's got to move another half an inch to the left. Cool. Boom, boom. It's like monkey. It's like ape activities.
Yeah, I dig
Whereas trim work's like, hey, you got to put this thing in the perfect. It's a 1/16 of an inch off. Got to redo it. I don't like that. You can't just hit it. But I got very lucky in having the opportunity to do a lot of those different skills.
Right, and you reminded me of that when you told the story. Like actually, it was a long time ago, but you recently kind of mentioned it as well, where you like redid your whole kitchen or electrical or whatever over the weekend. And I'm like, this mother. Like I wish, because my dad was a carpenter too. Like literally, my dad and 2 other guys built our whole house.
Yeah,
where like, God. And I watched them. And here's the thing, I would help. Like we'd help. I knew like all about, but I wasn't like how you got the opportunity to do it with him.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh, go clean up. And my dad and I was interested in like the artistic part of stuff anyway. Mm-hmm. So it blew right by me, unfortunately. And now as an adult, semi-full grown adult, I'm like realizing the value of it, man. But man, if you pay attention, especially early on, actually whenever, man, just pay attention, bro. You can just what do you call level, right? In the video game, you can level up your whole shit.
Yep. So let's do that. Let's follow a little Keenan Cornelius. He gave us, we were training today. He's give me some goods, you know, some goods, you know, just like, hey, you know, he's like, oh, I noticed you were doing this. Boom, here's a solution. I'm like, and that's the thing with the jiu-jitsu, just like life. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like he's seeing something that I'm not seeing. Why? Because I'm in the game. Yeah. And he's watching me roll with Miha, and he's like, hey, you're doing this. Yeah. And he goes, oh, you also did this with me, and it doesn't work. And I was like, okay, cool. And he's like, yeah, here's the solution. Oh, okay, thank you. Huh. You know what I mean? Like, that's why opening your mind up, trying to put yourself into receive mode, and putting yourself out there. Like, you got to do it.
Yeah.
That's the same thing. That's one thing that what's a bummer is even though YouTube's cool for like plumbing, nothing better than doing a project.
Yeah, agree.
Nothing better than doing a project, because that's how you're actually going to do it. When you do it, you learn it. Now, listen, you like a drywaller, man, respect. Good drywallers, they'll drywall this room in like an hour. No kidding. The rock is up, and they mud it and tape it, and it's done in an hour. This would take me like a day and a half. Yeah. You know, so I'm saying they could do it in an hour. Think about that. They could do it in an hour. It would take me a day and a half. Yeah. Now over time you can get better at it, but you got to do it.
Yeah.
You got to do it.
Yeah. But the YouTube or whatever resource or whatever, it's literally a free like guide.
Yeah.
And a free kind of in a way coach.
You know what's interesting is when that story about me redoing my kitchen. So I did my kitchen in my old house and like I had a 3-day weekend. And I stripped it down to the studs, redid the plumbing, redid the electrical, and got the drywall hung. I didn't get it mudded. Got the drywall hung in 72 hours, including putting in a new electrical sub panel for the kitchen itself. But what's interesting, this is pre-YouTube. I want to say this was like, let's see, what year was that? I got that house. It might have been like, I don't know if YouTube was out, but it was like 2001, 2002, something like that. But you know what I had to do? Because I took electricity in high school, but there's like, you know, you get like the faded memories. Yeah. But I went to Home Depot and I bought like an actual book, like electrical work or whatever. And I was able to, now I remember that. Plumbing, I kind of remembered. Plumbing's a little bit easier to remember. The thing that sucks about plumbing is when you screw it up, you know right where it is because there's water coming out of it. The thing that sucks about electrical is when you screw it up, you don't know where you messed up. It's somewhere in the system. Yeah. You know, seldom do you get like a spark. It's just like, oh, this doesn't work. Yeah. You got to figure it out. Yeah. So there you go. Man. All right, next question. Kimberly says, could you touch more on deciding what new games to start when coming to the end of the first big game? I may be coming to the end of my big game, and while I feel like the world is my oyster, I also don't really know where to start. I've been grinding at the same game for so long, I've never really thought about my values or made any other goals for myself outside of it. I want to make sure I'm honest with myself and not just throwing out random ideas that sound cool in the moment. Well, that's hey, good for you, first of all. It sounds like probably this is a career situation. Does that sound like a career situation? You've been in a career, you've done good, you're exiting, or whatever, time to move on. First of all, I'd say there's lots of opportunities, you know, and I would not jump into any one of these opportunities at once. I wouldn't just overcommit to any opportunity that comes up. I would, you know, do various reconnaissance and see what you like this and, you know, talk to these people and see what this game is like and, you know, go try tennis, go try jiu-jitsu, go try boxing, go try croquet, go try, what's the new one? Pickleball. Like, give them a try. Now, here's what's kind of challenging about this. When you're trying sports like that, there's a decent chance that you're not good enough at it to make it fun. When you go surfing for the first time, it's not fun. When you go to jiu-jitsu for the first time, it's not fun.
I was thinking about
when you go to tennis for the first time, it's not fun.
Yeah.
When you go to pickleball for the first time, it's not fun. Right? You're just getting smashed.
Yeah.
You miss the ball. You get choked. Mm-hmm. You fall off the surfboard. You can't. So with those kind of activities, you have to do them long enough that you start to feel the return on investment from the effort that you're putting into it. Mm. So it's a little bit, you have to pay attention to that when you're talking about what new career opportunity do you want to get into. Because some of it you might go, I tried this and I don't like that industry. Okay, well, let's make sure that you actually understood it well enough. I think it's a little bit easier to understand an industry than a new physical sport. Mm-hmm. But I always talk about the fact that I like to try, from a business perspective, I like to try a lot of different things. Oh, we'll try this, we'll try that. Let's do this thing over here. Let's make this and see how they do. And don't overcommit to something that we're not sure how well it's going to do. So I would, when it comes to trying to figure out what game to play next, I would dabble a bit. Go try, go experiment, go see what's going on. Go volunteer at some, financial firm. Go volunteer at some construction firm. Go. Just, hey, I want to see what you guys do. And that's what I would do in that. I think what I liked about this question was when you talked about the values. And I think you said, I've never really thought about my values or made any other goals for myself outside of the work that you were in. You said it, but outside the work that you were in. I think this is a great opportunity. And I think this should really drive the first part of the question. I think you need to write down, I think you need to do a little soul searching and write down, what are your values? What do you enjoy? What do you like? What do you want? What gives you gratification? And then figure out why those things give you gratification. And I think a good way to do this is play out some hypothetical scenarios, right? Like you're going to go for this industry. What does it look like when you win? What kind of, I make a bunch of money. Well, make sure that that's really what you value. Because if you make a bunch of money, but you're working 80-hour days and you're stressed out all the time, now there's some people that love that environment. There's some people that love that environment. There's some people that really like that. I'll be honest with you, I kind of like it. I like when things are a little bit chaotic. I enjoy it when there's tough decisions to make. I like that. Not everyone's like that. Some people, they start to break down when that happens. So I would try and yet there's a push, a social push to be on the grind, right? Mm-hmm. The grind's not good for everybody. Mm. Some people like it, some people don't. It's not, but if it's not for you, then don't get into some game because everyone's on the grind and this and that. Mm. Toxic productivity, right?
Sure. Grind culture.
Thank you. So we got to watch out for that. But figure out what you actually value. So you see there's a little difference between values and what you value. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
Values is a thing hey, my values are integrity. Mm-hmm. My values are treating people with respect. Those are good. But then you also have to figure out the other thing, which is what you actually value. Mm-hmm. Not just your values as a person, but what you actually value. And then take that list, then go and start to do your reconnaissance of the world and see what you really want to do. Don't overcommit to anything. Take small steps and you're going to end up in a good spot. Good luck, Kimberly. Next question is from Anthony. When you got into the game concerning the military, it really made me think about some of the struggles I've seen friends struggle with. Similar to the NFL, many people just give it everything and don't think about the broader game outside. Yes. You see people struggle with demons post-service because they feel dejected or cast out. Military, just like sports, isn't an end game, and if more young people understood that when joining it, would probably help curb some of the issues that vets face later on. Yep, this is true. You got to recognize that whatever your job is, whether you're an NFL player, a special operations commando, a hedge fund manager, whatever that thing is, it's not you. It's not you. And there's more to life than that thing. So keep that in mind all the time. Keep that in mind all the time. That's one game, and there's a bigger game to pay attention to. And that I agree with Anthony that will help. Jessica says, first I want to say I love these 2 episodes. And the quote, discipline is rooted in the truth we tell ourselves, was so good. My question is, would you please speak on the topic of playing the game you don't want to be in? For reference, my daughter is severely disabled by a rare genetic disorder. The game I play is not one I wanted to play, and yet, as you say, all you can do is say good and move on with it. But this game is played with neither talent nor passion for the game. Only the Wii player you're playing it with. It comes with a lot of stress and regret for a path you don't get on. Well, yeah, Jessica, definitely there are games in life that we're going to get forced to play. And yours is an especially tough one. And look, you're right. But what can you do about that? Can you curl up into a ball on the couch and cry and wish it would go a different way? You can do that, but that's not going to help you. So as you said, the best thing you can do is say, okay, good. Let's move forward. And then I think, if you want to pull the thread on that, it's, hold on a second, what is good about the situation that I'm in right now? I have to, you have regret for the paths that you can't get on. So maybe you were going to do a career, or you're going to have more kids, or you're going to, travel, whatever it is. And all of a sudden you're looking around going, oh, no, I'm not going to be able to play those games. I'm stuck in this game. So what do we take away from that? For me, the appreciation for what you do have is so powerful to think about. The fact that you've got this daughter who needs help and you are capable of giving her that help. And where would she be without you? And then the appreciation for other members of your family that have their health. And I've had some hard conversations with kids over the years, little warrior kids that are 8 years old or 10 years old or whatever, and they're sick. They're facing legitimate debilitating diseases, like whether they've got cancer or they've got whatever debilitating disease they've got. And when I talk to those kids, I always tell them, I give them a smile and I say, hey, listen, what you're going through right now, it's going to make you so tough you're going to be able to do anything. And I feel, Jessica, that that's what you are going to experience, is the effort that you put forth to play a game that you didn't want to play, to get thrown into a game that you didn't want to play, but you give that game everything you got. I think that will give you massive mental strength in life, and something that I believe will probably benefit you. And if you have the ability, I think it'll actually help a lot of other people, as you can pass on some of these lessons learned, as we started off talking on this podcast about the fact that one of the most rewarding things and one of the best things that you can do as a human being is take your experiences and what you learn and pass them on to other people. So I think that this experience that you're going through, that's so challenging, so brutal every single day, and yet you're playing that game to the best of your ability, I think you're going to take so much away from that. It's going to give you an incredible opportunity to help others. So stay strong, Jessica. Stay strong. You got an awesome attitude. Next question is from Jonathan. Hey, Jocko, could you explain how to compete within your own team in order to benefit the organization? I work in construction, heavy equipment to be exact. I would like to figure out how to generate friendly competition amongst my coworkers in order to progress all of our skills and coherence. Yeah. This is exactly what you said. Setting up friendly competitions to progress skills is a thing. And it's a good thing. And in the SEAL teams, we did that with everything. Shooting, you did competitions. Running, you're doing competitions. Diving, you're doing competitions. Parachute, everything you're doing is a competition. I'm going to land closer to the T. When you parachute, you land on a T. I'm going to, shoot this course of fire faster than you are. Like, everything's just a little competition. And it does, as you said, progresses your skills. And it's the same thing. I see it all the times with businesses, the sales competition that's going on, or the operational turn times, or the cost to produce. We're going to like all these things, little competitions. So I think, when you ask how to compete within your own team, what you do is you just set up fun competitions. And you make sure that the competitions are fun, and you make sure that they don't undermine the team, because that can happen where all of a sudden, Echo against me, and I decide I'm going to cheat, or I decide I'm not going to give Echo the key piece of information. Oh, I had a sales call and I ran into this objection, but I'm not going to tell Echo how I handled it, so that way he won't surpass me. So make sure that your small competitions that you have are embedded and nested in a larger overall goal that everyone is a part of. So if Echo is competing against me in sales and we set up a competition between us two, we also want to set up a competition where our whole team is trying to sell X amount of whatever, widgets. So even though we're competing, we also want to reach the overall goal. So that's what we're doing. Friendly competition is good. You have to make sure as a leader it doesn't turn into unfriendly competition. He says, another question I have is, when do you know you're being over competitive and souring relationships in your family, friends, and work groups? Again, the answer is in the question. You know you're being over competitive when you make people mad. And my guess is, Jonathan, that you like to compete. You like to get things going. You get fuel off that, which probably, if that's the way you roll, it's going to piss some people off. And so my assumption is that you like to compete. You like to win. You do this often. And I would, because you have, and if I'm, I could be wrong, but if you have that, if that's your innate nature, then let's just lean towards building relationships instead of competing all the time. Okay? Because I can see just by now that I see both these questions, you're probably like the super hype competitive, like that W on the scoreboard. But if that's your nature, then be careful of it. We always have to be careful of our own tendencies. I have a tendency to be very hands-off from a leadership perspective, and I have to pay attention to that, because otherwise I'll just yeah, you guys do whatever you want. I have to pay enough attention to that. Hey, let me check in. Let me make sure we're going in the right direction. So you have to be aware of your tendency, which it seems like your tendency is hyper competitive. Be careful. Ryan Dial says, often in a game you can find yourself in a hopeless situation. Say fourth quarter down 56 points. In that situation, how do you find the fortitude to keep fighting back, even with the acceptance of knowing and owning that your mistakes got you there? Well, what are my options? We're down fourth quarter. We're down by 56. What are my options? Lay down and quit? No. I mean, well, okay, it is an option, but I would not take that option. I would fight. And in these situations where you're gonna lose, fighting is winning. That's the best you're gonna get. That's the best you're gonna get. Is to go out on your shield. Now listen, we're talking football. If you're in a situation where we're talking a big game, we're talking life, we're talking and you made some mistakes, well, what adjustments can we make? How can we rebuild? How do we take ownership of whatever we did that was wrong and get it back together and put together some semblance of forward positive motion? Like we brought up some pretty horrible examples earlier. You freaking got a DUI, you crashed, you freaking killed somebody, killed a kid on a bicycle, right? You're losing. So what are you going to do? What you're going to do is the best you can. That's what you're going to do. Obviously, you're never going to drink again. Obviously, you're going to spend a bunch of time donating your time and efforts to help solve the problem of drunk driving and going to talk to schools. And you're going to do a bunch of things as repentance for this horrible thing that you did. That's the best you can do. But we're not giving up. See, that's the key point here. We're not giving up. We're not quitting. We're not saying I did this horrible thing and now I quit. No, we're never saying that. It's unacceptable. It's unacceptable. It's unacceptable in any situation to say, you know what, I just give up on life. No, unacceptable. I put myself in a bad situation. I take ownership of it. I'm going to make forward progress. That's what we're doing. So keep fighting, Ryan. We got Joe. Life is a game, should be a high school class. What would you include in such a class? I didn't learn that everything is a game until I was in my late 20s when I realized how much I'd screwed up at the beginning of my career. Managers were selected day 100. I started day 500. If I was going to try and teach this to high school kids, I'd probably do something like what we did on these podcasts. I'd clean it up, obviously, and narrow it down, but this isn't that complicated. And if I was going to be in a high school class, I would teach it using things that they can relate to, right? So you talk about playing a game with your parents. Mm-hmm. I've had that conversation. I had that conversation with my kids. When they're interacting with their mom and things aren't going that great, when they're going through that teenage, 13, 14 years old, I'm like, hey, this is a game. And right now you're losing because you're grounded, or right now you're losing because you've got animosity. So you're losing. This is a game. You know what you have to do to win the game? Be nice. Show respect. And then all of a sudden you can pretty much do whatever you want. Sports, school, like, oh, my teacher sucks. Okay. So what are you going to do? Misbehave in class? Don't turn in your homework, get a bad grade. How's that help? Or do you just, hey, my teacher sucks? Okay, well, form a good relationship with your teacher. Be nice to them. Try and help out. Do your homework assignments. That's the way you create the minimum friction. Even though no one wants to hear that either, by the way. Nope. Teacher doesn't even care if we learn. Okay, so you're just going to sit in the back and shoot spitballs at the blackboard, right? Yeah. Is that a thing anymore?
I don't know.
That was kind of like a thing. Spitballs must still be a thing, right?
I don't know, man. I don't hear much about spitballs nowadays. But I don't know. It's been a long time.
There's probably like other things to do.
Yeah.
Were spitballs a thing in your high school?
Yeah, here and there. Wait, what's a spitball? Is that the straw?
Yeah. I mean, you pretty much they take a piece of paper, chew it in your mouth. It's covered with spit. You put it in a straw or whatever, and it like hits the chalkboard.
Yes.
Who did that?
Oh yeah. I don't think I'd ever do it in the class, but outside or whatever.
So that's what you're gonna do. Shoot spitballs at the blackboard, cause problems. Like, how is that helping? What does that do? It's going to make your life worse. You're going to get in trouble, get detention, get a bad grade, all this other crap's going to happen. Most you can play the game. Teachers doesn't care if you pass, cool. Yep. Whatever.
Yeah, that's a big one when you're dealing with other people, like a teacher or whatever, especially when they're supposed to be nice in your mind or whatever. So I'm going to tell you this quick story. Mm-hmm. So in my kid's school, there's a crossing guard lady. She's not very nice. She's actually mean.
That's why she's hired.
So this is the kind. She's mean. She's dramatic. She's like, and so she'll just yell at you in front of everybody if you don't if you don't step perfectly on the crosswalk or like that kind of stuff.
She's yelling at you?
Oh yeah, everybody. she said she was gonna call the police on me. So here,
dang, bro. Okay. So you need to play the game, dude.
This is my early.
What's wrong with you, bro?
This is my early experience, right? So, me, bro, I don't care about any cross guard lady at all. I don't care. Like, you don't care who she's yelling at, bro. I don't care. So I'm like, I'm going to drop off my kids to school, and I'm coming from this opposite direction as like we would normally come, and she's running the crosswalk. She's got her helpers or whatever. So I pull on the side of the road in an quote unquote unauthorized drop off spot.
You're that guy.
Bro, I'm that guy. I don't care. Bro, I'm dropping off my kids. I don't care what this lady says. Right.
Okay.
So
how'd this work out? I hope you got the cops called on you.
Bro, she looked at me, right? So she's seen me. Boom. Obviously, it's like huge violation in her world. And then so she starts yelling from where she is, charging over to me. Right? and I'm in the car, and
bro, I
she's
wish
like
I
outside.
could have seen this.
Bro, and here's the thing, me, my wife, is like early on, me, my wife, and the kids in the car. So she comes up, rolls up to my window, and is like yelling at me, "This is not the spot." Like it was a massive personal violation to her. "It's not the spot. I'm gonna call the cops and have them come over here and like arrest you for like parking here and doing all this stuff, right? Like outlandish stuff."
Dang.
And I'm like, and again, bro, I don't care about this lady. So ultimately, it's kind of funny because it's like, bro, first off, you're not gonna call the cops. We all know that. And even if you did call the cops would be like, "What do you want me to come over there for? Who's this? The crossing guard lady from up the road?" So anyway. So my kids are like, they don't know what to do. They're like getting out all quick and trying to run away. You know, my wife's like, kind of like, "Oh man, shoot, that sucks," you know, kind of thing. And I'm kind of like, I'm not laughing, but I'm like, "All right, lady, I get it. You know, we shouldn't do this. I get it, right?" But my natural instinct is to be like, screw that lady, right? Because she's yelling at everybody. Everyone doesn't like her because she's so mean, right? So later on, I kind of learned the protocol. I'm like, I see what this lady's doing. Like, she's going about it all wrong, for sure. But, you know, she's a salty old lady. Just cross her. So I'm thinking, and my daughter is super nice to everybody. Like, she like likes everyone and super nice. So I'm thinking, she's like, "Oh my gosh, you know, the Mrs." And she has a name. I don't want to bust out her name, but crossing guard lady, like, she's so intimidating and all this stuff. I was like, "Hey, we should," I'm thinking this to myself too before I told it to her. "We should be nice to that crossing guard lady. Just to see what happens," because no one's nice to her, and there's no reason for anyone ever to be nice because she's yelling at everybody. Yeah. So it's like, why would someone get yelled at and be like, and genuinely be nice to this person?
So you told your daughter we should be nice to her?
Yep. So I thought about it for, a week or whatever. And then I came out with that. I was like, wait a second. This is like, she's so mean that she made everyone else be mean back to her, which fuels her meanness, you know? So it's like, I was like, hey, we're going to be nicer. We're going to follow all her rules too. I don't care how bad of a mood she's in. Like, we're going to be nice. Bruh, like magic. The moment my daughter is like, "Oh, hi, good morning," or whatever, she'd be like, "Oh, hi." And so I've literally watched her, and even I do it. I know I don't know, maybe she doesn't remember me. The guy she's going to call the cops on, I'm sure she tells that to everybody, but whatever. She's super nice to me now. Like when I walk or whatever. And again, like magic, I literally witness this all the time where she's like, people are, not stepping in the crosswalk correctly or the car, like, didn't stop perfectly on the line or whatever. She's literally yelling at everyone. Like she's in the worst mood. And then we walk up and she's like, she shifts, smiling all big. "Oh, hi, good morning. Thank you, sir." Calls me sir. Calls me sir. Nobody calls me sir. She calls me sir. The meanest crossing guard lady I've ever witnessed in my whole life calls me sir. Only because we're just nice to somebody.
You treat people with respect and be nice to them. That goes a long way, man. It really does.
It's crazy, man.
And follow the little stupid rules, like it's no big deal.
And that was what really stood out too. I was like, bro, following these rules actually isn't even that hard. Yeah. And quite frankly, I kind of see your point.
Yeah. Well, she's trying to protect these kids, bro.
Yeah. What if everyone just followed the rules? Not attitude, no attitude, whatever. Just what if everyone just automatically followed? Bro, you know how smooth this morning system would be? She's like, bro, this lady has a point. Just because she's yelling doesn't make her wrong, So anyway, but again, like the instinct is like, screw this lady. How dare her yell at me and all the parents of these children trying to get it. And we're like, why are you yelling at everyone? Kind of a thing. But no, bro.
Yep. And her perspective, she's like worried about the kids. Trying to get people just totally disrespecting her. Oh, yeah. I mean, like kind of like you were. You're like, will you call the cops on me? Luckily, you didn't say that.
Laughing.
Right?
Yeah,
laughing at her.
Yeah, exactly right, man.
So you kind of like got to see her perspective a little bit. It's definitely a good move there, Echo Charles. You are commended. And although I would have liked to see you get arrested. Next question is from Noah. Is there an entrance-exit strategy to enter and withdraw from one of life's games, or is it quite literally get in, get out? Example, I want to start a company. Should I do research and get all my data before starting, or go in guns blazing? Hey, Noah, it isn't get all the data and research, and it isn't guns blazing. Those are extremes, and we don't recommend extremes. We recommend iterative decision making. We recommend small steps. And then pay attention to the feedback that you get. So there you go. No big deal. You want to get out of a game? Cool. You want to get into a different game? All right. Just don't do it on a whim. Come up with a plan. Put it together. Make a first step. Assess what you got. Make another step. That's what we're doing. Next question is from David. And it says, work, relationship, etc. as a game causes a shift in our chemistry. We think of playing games as fun. So relating to work as a game creates a context for who we are being when we play the game. Fun, excitement, connection, etc. Maybe playing the game is more powerful than winning. Well, yeah, I like that. And that's part of it. You know, we've answered some questions on the other podcast is when something sucks, how do you make it into a game so it's fun? You're exactly right. Fun and connection and excitement are all good. That's one of the reasons you train that jiu-jitsu, right? Mm-hmm. So playing is part of the game and part of the fun, and seeing things as a game can make things fun, even when they might not be fun. So I agree. Kyle here says, are there any games of universal importance, meaning not only to specific groups or circles when one walks away? I think we'd have to go with health and fitness. I think we'd have to go with teamwork and helping other people. I think we'd have to go with integrity. Right? Is integrity a game? Yeah, it is. Because it's something that you're trying to uphold, your integrity as a person. Telling the truth, keeping your word. Is integrity more important than winning? Yes, it is. Well, at least I guess for me it is. For some people, they'd rather win, make more money or get a reward or an award rather than keep their integrity. But I believe that the long game supports integrity. And I think people that are out for themselves universally lose in the end. And we've kind of talked about that on this podcast. So yeah, those are some of the ones I can think of that are kind of universal games. Helping other people, keeping your health in order, keeping your integrity. I think those are universal. Artie says, do you ever burn bridges when playing the game? And if you do, how do you act going forward if you see the person's involved or even need to work with them again? Well, no, that's why I don't burn bridges. So I don't burn bridges. Because look, how is it going to help me to burn bridges? Or let me say I never burn bridges, but I very rarely burn a bridge. Very rarely burn a bridge. In fact, it's hard for me I don't think I've burned any bridges. I'm sure I could sit here for a half an hour and think about, somebody that did something at some point and I was like, yeah, you know what? That's not happening anymore. We had a company at Echelon Front that wanted to work with me, and they made a product that I did not think is a good product for humanity. And we did a call with them, or no, I said no. And then they said, please do a call with us. We really want to talk to you. And I said, okay. And so I finally relented and said, okay, I'll do a call with you. And then they were pitching me. And I finally said, hey, I do not think that your product will help people. And in fact, I think your product hurts people. And therefore, I will not be doing anything to help you share or spread your product to the world. And they kind of got quiet. And then they were like, well, we appreciate, your honest feedback. And then Jamie, we got it because Jamie was on the call. And Jamie was like, I've never seen you do that before. And I was like, yeah, because it was kind of also, they weren't really getting the message. I was like, yeah, I just, this is not, something we want to get involved in. And then they're like, yeah, blah, 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 blah. And finally I just said, hey, I do not like what your product does in the world.
Are you at liberty to say what the product is?
I don't want to say it. It's not hard to figure out. It's something that's not healthy and kind of addictive. So, matter of fact, not kind of. Something that's not good for people and addictive for people. And with really no benefits whatsoever. So that was the type of product that it was. So I'm not going to generally, no, I'm definitely trying not to burn bridges. And it's for the exact reason, like, you burn a bridge today, how do you know what's going to hold in the future? And what benefit do you get from it? You don't get any benefit from it. Burning bridges with people. Try and treat people with respect. Try and be nice to them. It's just better for you. It's better for them. It's better for the world. So I'm trying not to burn bridges. Samuel says, what do you think sets the rules and manufactures the game? What do you think about God of the Bible who ordains and decrees all things? Quote, the sum of your word is truth and every one of your righteous rules endures forever. End quote. This is something that we covered on, I think, one of the first podcasts is, and that, look, the rules that we follow for the game, or the rules of the game, come from different places depending on who you are. And if you're following the rules from the Bible, look, much of Judeo-Christian society gets its rules from the Bible. So certainly that has a huge influence on things. But there's other parts of the world, there's other parts of this country where people get their rules for different games from different things. So I think the question is actually not who do I think sets the rules of the game? It's who do you think sets the rules for the game that you're playing, and what rules do you choose to follow? So Nate says, would love to hear you outline the games ecosystems you're currently engaged in. Go deep on one or two. We go deep on all the games I'm involved in all the time. What games are we in? Jiu-jitsu, right? Trying to improve, trying to get better, trying to evolve. That's a game, man. We need to bring back the Grounded podcast and just start talking about jiu-jitsu because, man, it's deep. There's so much going on in the jiu-jitsu world. Jocko Fuel. We got Jocko Fuel. That's a game involved in, right? We're making product. We're distributing the product all over the country. We're going into retail. We're doing direct to consumers. All those things happening. We're growing very rapidly. Very cool game to be in, but it's a game. There's mistakes you can make on the board. You can get, return to go. Do not pass go. No, do not.
Just go to jail.
Go to jail. Don't pass go. There's like things you can land on the board.
Yeah, sure.
The retail board. Mm-hmm. Like there's right now, one of the big companies, one of the just giant $1 billion companies is going into some retail places that we're in and buying out the shelf space for millions of dollars. So that's the game we're in. So we're playing against, players that are bigger and stronger than us. Players that are bigger and stronger than us. Just like jiu-jitsu. You're going to go against people that are bigger and stronger than you. Just like war. You might have to fight an enemy that's bigger and stronger than you. So we have to maneuver, and we might lose a battle here and there. We might lose a battle to a big, strong person they're going to expend millions of dollars to take some of our shelf space away. Okay. We'll make an adjustment. What are we going to do? So there's a game that's being played. Echelon Front. We got, Echelon Front. We're doing a bunch of things in Echelon Front. Origin. Echelon Front. What are we doing at Echelon Front? We got online training, right? That's a huge part of what we're doing right now because it's the most scalable way to share the lessons that we've learned about leadership and life. So extremeownership.com. There you go. What are we doing? That's what we're doing. Are we still doing a bunch of other, things? Yes, we are. But that's a part of the game that we're moving on right now. We're making moves. So that's what's happening. We've made bad moves. Like we used a learning management system that was awkward to log into and had a weird pricing, the way you had to check out, like all this stuff. Those are bad moves. What do we do? Okay, yeah, that didn't work too well. There's a sunk cost. We spent a bunch of money on it and building it, but it didn't work the way we needed it to do. Should we continue going down that path, or do we say, you know what, that's not the way it should be? It's negatively impacting the ability for us to get this information to people. Nope. Okay, we're gonna give away that money. That money's gone. Reinvest the money into a new platform. That's what we did. We just launched the new platform. That's what's going on, right? This is all part of the game. Those are like, that's a classic example right there, right? We spent a bunch of money on a platform. The platform didn't do what we wanted it to do the way we wanted it to do it. We tried, we failed, we tried, we failed. Eventually it's like, hey, this is not working. But we spent so much money. Yep, sunk cost. So let's just keep going. No. Cut our losses, new platform. Now all of a sudden we got a platform. We can give parts of it away for free. We can contact people. We can scale it in a way that wasn't possible with the other system. So this is all the game. It's all happening. Origin. Man, the game at Origin is crazy. What we got going on there. You know, we're buying millions of dollars worth of material. We know material that we don't weave, we buy. We buy it from American manufacturers. How long does it take to make? Right? If you want to sell a pair of jeans, you had to order that denim 4 or 5 months ago. So just think about the logistics of that. So we've got to figure, and by the way, you pay somebody for denim 4 or 5 months ago that cost you several $1 million. Well, you didn't make jeans for 5 months. You ordered it, you paid for it, 5 months went by. Then you got the material, then you had to sew the jeans. There's another month, and now it's out to be in retail, to be sold. There's 6 months. Where'd you get $3.2 million worth of material? Where'd you get that money from? Well, that's money. It's not just sitting around. So that's what we're doing. This is all part of the game. So those are some games that we are involved in at this time. Mike Grayson says, you must know your opponent. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the powers, against the forces of this darkness, against the spiritual forces of wickedness in the heavenly places. That's obviously a quote from the Bible. And yes, 100%, there's darkness in the world. And we have to fight it. You know, I fall victim sometimes to, if I talk about something one time, I feel like, I said it, you know? Like, okay, well, I'm not going to say that again. But obviously, the darkness in the world is something I've talked a lot about, and maybe Mike hasn't been listening for that long, but I've talked a lot about the evil in the world and the fact that there is a war going on against evil. So, yes, this is correct. It feels a little bit inappropriate to call the evil of the world and fighting it a game, but it is essentially a game as well. Yeah. Sometimes it wins a quarter, right? Sometimes it's up at the halftime. Yeah. Zach says, why not use the term sport instead of game? Then he says, hell, the Latin word iocus, also spelled jocus, means joke, fun, sport. Jocko's Jocus series on treating life objectively and with discipline to win with the rules. Okay. Noted. Thank you, Zach. Going deep. Steven says, Viktor Frankl said, if you want success or fame, don't aim at it. They come naturally as a consequence of doing the right thing. How can we win without trying to win? This is actually something I totally agree with. If you focus on doing good, if you focus on supporting other people, in business, if you focus on making a good product, if you focus on providing good service, if you focus on doing good work, if you focus on helping other people, the reward will come. The reward will come. So I agree with Viktor Frankl. I say the same thing in leadership strategy and tactics about getting promoted. You want to get promoted? Don't think about how to get promoted. Just go do awesome work. If you focus on getting promoted, everybody sees that you're focused on getting promoted. Mm-hmm. And when they see that you're focused on getting promoted, they don't like it. They're like, oh, Echo just wants to get promoted. That's why he's doing this. Let's undermine him. No. Just do the right thing. If you do the right thing for the right reasons, as Viktor Frankl said, it will come. It'll come naturally. There's a doctor here, Dr. Benjamin. Says there's only two types of games, finite and infinite. Finite games are played within rules and are played to be won. Infinite games, the rules are played with and played to keep the game going. Paraphrase from James Garcia. So we've talked about this before. The only thing I would say to the doctor here is, I don't know if it's useful to say there's only two types of games, and we talked about this already, but I won't go into it again. There's different degrees, between finite and infinite, right? There's different numbers of rules and pliability of rules. And I think it's more important to understand that, yes, there are finite games at one end of the spectrum, and there's infinite games at the other end of the spectrum. And I think what matters most is that you understand that you're in a game, and the game that you're playing and what you have to play, how you have to either abide by the rules or leave the game or go to a bigger game. But yes, good point, Dr. Benjamin. Jeremy says, how do I express this effectively to middle and high school students? Again, I would paraphrase what Echo and I talked about on these podcasts. Probably turn that into a 1-page or 2-page outline. And then, like I said earlier, use examples that they can relate to: school, parents, sports, interaction between, high school kids, that kind of stuff. Just use things that they can relate to. Little, job at McDonald's or whatever. You got to play the game. I worked at Wendy's. Got to play the game. So use things that they can relate to. Someone named Action Ishi says, someone else kind of said it, but what do you do when you need someone else to play the game with you and they don't want to? And this is kind of this whole series started off with Sarah Armstrong saying, be careful of relying on other people in the game because you might be let down. So control your expectations. But there's sometimes you need someone else to help you maneuver. Well, a good way to do this is, how can you help them? If I want Echo to do something, how can I help him do it? How can I get Echo engaged? How can I minimize what I need from Echo? So I'm not counting on Echo in some huge way. And by the way, if I'm trying to get Echo to do something, am I doing it for the right reasons? If I'm just trying to get Echo to do something to benefit me, well, I'm actually not, I shouldn't be doing that. How is it going to help him? And if I'm trying to get Echo to do something that's going to help Echo, well, then Echo's much more likely to do it. So let's keep that in mind. Let's make sure that the game we're playing is beneficial to the people that we're trying to get to play with us. Or find out a way to win without them. Or find a game that you don't need to count on this person. Now, like Echo said earlier, when it comes to like a workout buddy, if Echo's my workout buddy, but he's not showing up and he's lazy and he doesn't want to do the work, and I know it's going to be beneficial if he does it, but he's not doing it, I got to find someone else to play the game with me, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm going to put a certain amount of effort. I'll send you the text in the morning. Hey, bro, we're here. We're getting ready to hit it. Where you at? But I can't make that horse drink. So that's what I'd pay attention to there. Jacob says, under what circumstances is a room dedicated to the enemy positions and terrain become invaluable? This was, this is like a terrain model. You know what I'm talking about? Mm-hmm. The answer is when you, almost all the time, but when you can't see the terrain, when you can't just stand on and look out and say, oh, the enemy's over there and we can move over there. When you have multiple friendly and enemy units, so you got multiple things going on. There's just going to be people that understand things visually better than through words. So basically, anytime you can put things in a visual representation, it's going to be helpful. Now, you don't need a room dedicated, okay? Okay, if you're in a massive, big operational campaign, maybe a room is needed. If you have a battalion plus a battalion or more sized operation, maybe you need some kind of room set up. I know when I did battalion operations with the Army or the Marine Corps, they would pretty much set up a room and we'd put a big map on the floor with tape and put little building blocks to show buildings and all that. Very helpful. But as like a platoon commander, when we were going in the field, I'd carry this little box with like a little ribbon, a couple pieces of ribbon in it, a blue one, a red one, a brown one, and then some little squares of wood. These are like kind of just shapes, little wood shapes, not paper thin, but very thin wooden shapes, like the thickness of a credit card, basically. Little shapes. You'd be like, oh, here's a building, here's a river, and then I had little shapes that were labeled as the different people in a platoon or fire teams in a platoon. Right. So you could really quickly, in the field, break this thing out and I could do a quick terrain model. So yes, I don't know what this has to do with the game, but there we go. We answered the question. Frank T. Tank. Frank the Tank says, although I believe that life is a game, it's not a very popular idea for my wife. She feels that makes her and the family pieces to be moved around a board. How would you address that? Okay, I would not call it, if she doesn't like it, I wouldn't call it a game. I would call it a life. I would call it a journey. I would call it a mission or a voyage or whatever, right? Hey, this is our mission. Our mission. Not I'm playing a game and you're on the, no. Yeah. This is our mission. We're working together. We're a team. And guess what? On the chessboard, or on the team, on the football field, we all got a job. We got to work together to win. I wouldn't get caught up in the terminology of trying to call this game. In fact, I'd say, well, what do you think life is? And she'd say, I think it's more like what would not be game? What could we not turn into a game? I think it's a play. I think it's a play. Oh, yeah, I agree. And so let's, we can shape the outcome of the play, and we all got roles in the play, and we got to listen to the director, and we got to, you know what I mean? So whatever, just make it work, bro. Don't get stuck on terminology.
Yeah, because, well, this sticks out to me a little bit because that's true where, we get stuck on terminology where, like the game sounds like it's not serious. Yeah, that's why it's like, hey, you think life is a game?
There was immediate objections to the term game of life is a game. Yeah. Is immediate objections of, no, it's not a game.
Right. It's more
serious. We addressed that on the first podcast, like out of the gate.
Yeah.
And this is the same situation, but we don't want to make our wife mad. Right. You're losing the game if you do that.
Yeah. You got to step back. You got scored on for sure. Yeah. And keep in mind too, though, where they were, even if I say the word triggered, that'll trigger due to terminology. But nonetheless, if your wife is triggered by the word game in reference to life, right? Life, keep in mind that don't be equally as stuck to your terms. Yeah. Because I made that mistake before. This wasn't with my wife. It was with my friend that was a girl. Remember Susanna?
Yes.
The paddler?
Yep.
Yeah. So we'd hang out and stuff, and we'd get into little debates, whatever. And I don't know, we were talking about like payoffs, right? Where it's like, hey, you wouldn't like, the idea of being selfless can always be circled around to having a payoff for yourself, right?
Yes.
So we were talking about that concept, right? Where it's like, hey, can you really find something that's truly selfless? Because I said you always are getting some sort of a payoff. And then she did not like the word payoff because it sounds like money, She was like, no, there's no payoff. There's no payoff. And I was like, no, think about it. And I kept using the word payoff, not realizing, she didn't like the word payoff. But if I change it to something else, which I didn't, reward, by the way, reward, something, even benefit. Reward, benefit, those all sound selfish. Payoff, but some, or just say, and I didn't say this, by the way, but me being way older now, maybe say something along the lines of, we appreciate the greater good or something like that, then yeah, perfect. But it was saying the exact same thing, But so let me not be stuck on my word too. If they don't like that word, don't think that, no, this is the best word for it. Don't think that. Be like, hey, okay, let me think of it like how you said, think of a term or expression that's a little bit more your speed.
For sure.
While still understanding what I'm talking about.
Don't get caught up in
watch out for that.
Words. What happens at Echelon Front, people like covering moves like war.
Yeah, military.
Oh, cool. Just call it teamwork then.
Gunfighting.
Call it mutually support. Yeah, we don't care.
Hey, the other day you got caught up in that just for a second.
Mm-hmm. What was it?
Train. When you said your wife something, and I said, oh, you trained her, and you said, oh, she's not a dog. And I was about to be like, object, but we had a podcast to say. But think about it. Train, you train your dog, but you also train yourself in jiu-jitsu. You also train yourself in speaking, or not yourself, but
But what you said didn't work for that scenario.
No, it worked. Anytime you think of terms and I don't know, maybe it did, maybe it didn't, but anytime.
Okay, well, you can go tell my wife then that she's well trained by me and see how that works out for you. Tell me that's a good word for that context, bro.
That's the exact thing we're talking about. I wasn't talking to you.
You're hung up on this shit right now. And Big H is about to get you unstuck.
See, right now you are doing the right thing. You're like, technically, given the circumstances at this moment, you're doing the right thing. Like you're
yes,
like,
I am 100%.
And I'm doing the exact thing that I said not to do. Where it's like, who used trained? Me. I said trained. You said, well, no, not trained. She's not a dog, right? Yep. I should have just been okay. Yeah. You're right. I should have, but I stuck with trained because I'm like, no. Technically, it is trained, and trained's not a bad. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Train's not a bad word.
Call in the terminology.
Yep.
It's good to say, yeah, shrug your shoulders and find a different word.
Yep.
You know, have that thesaurus at hand.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
John says, from the perspective of you and Echo, what do you think allows some people to identify the game at such a young age, late teens, early 20, compared to others? You know what's interesting on this question is my immediate response was I thought to myself, well, okay, well, taking a step back and detaching, that allows you to see the game, and when you watch and when you observe, that allows you to see the game. Here's what I think is actually the most beneficial. Having somebody explain it to you.
Yeah.
You know, the amount of comments that we got on this podcast from people that were between the ages of, 18 and 58 of saying like, damn, I wish I'd known this. Yeah. So having somebody explain it to you, I think, is the best way to learn it. And what's interesting about this is, you know how there's some things that get explained to you, but you really have to feel it for yourself before you believe it? Yeah, this doesn't seem to be like that. This is one of those things where people go, yeah, that's actually right. Yeah, that makes sense. Like they see it. It's almost like the answer is right there, and then as soon as it gets revealed, they go, oh yeah, that's correct. So that's what I think. I think, yes, detaching is a good way to see it. Taking a step back and watching and observing is all good, but having someone explain it to you when some, salty old chief says, hey, this is just a game, boy. You're like, all right, cool. So those are my answers there. Tamir says, great podcast. Still not fully clear. Most people want the same games. Make good money via good job, be healthy, have a good family, have freedom. How does knowing the game help with this? Why do most people struggle? Well, it's because even though people want to make good money, they want a good job, they want to be healthy, when they just see those things as places that they want to be, it's like if you pulled up a computer and said, want to go to a good ski mountain, and it just showed you a picture of a good ski mountain. Mm-hmm. Everybody, if you ski, you want to go there. Yeah. Okay, cool. I want to go there. But it doesn't help you at all. Yeah. You don't know what the name of it is. You don't know. So that's what happens. People, of course, I want to go to a good ski area, but I don't know how to get there. I don't know how much it costs. I don't know what it takes to get there. I don't know where I'm going to stay when I'm there. All those things. Mm-hmm. So when you look at making money, look, you just see, if I showed you a bank account, hey, Echo, here's a bank account with $1 million in it. You're like, hell yeah, I want that. Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. Later. I didn't help you at all. Yeah. If I say, okay, here's what you got to do. Here's some things to become financially secure. You want to invest your money in this way. You want to save this type of money. You want to not waste your money on these things over here. Those are the rules. All of a sudden, you see it as a game. Same thing with relationships. Oh, you want to marry someone that you have a good temperament that complements each other. Like all those things. So there's rules to these games. And when people don't see it as a game and they only see these goals, he says people want the same game. No, they want the same rewards. Everybody wants a lot of money. Everybody wants a good job. Everybody wants to be healthy. Everybody wants a good family. Everyone wants freedom. Those aren't the games. Those are the rewards of the games. Mm-hmm. When you realize it's a game, that's when you start putting structure around it. That's when you start figuring out what the rules are and how you can move forward. So that's my answer, Tamir.
And that's not to mention that these things that he listed look different for everybody.
That is true.
So yeah, if you shine a light on the whole game as it exists, and that you're a player in that game, you can make your specific moves based on what these things look like for you.
Check. We got a few more here. Benjamin Miller, how have you used the game to further or begin your entrepreneurial endeavors? Again, what we just answered. You have an entrepreneurial idea. So you have an objective, but then what are the rules? What is the structure of that game, right? Oh, I want to sell tea. Okay. Well, guess what? Do I just sit there and think about it? No, you figure out, okay, what's the game here? There's different games you play. There's an Amazon game, right? There's direct to consumer. There's retail game. All those are different games, by the way. What are the rules on those games? What are the rules in retail? What are the rules on Amazon? What are the rules on direct to consumer? Those are all things you got to figure out. So when you start to say, okay, here's the game that we're going to play. We're going to sell tea. Okay, cool. What do we have to do? How much do we need to produce? Okay. What are the avenues we can sell it? Okay. So yes, figuring out the rules, figuring out the objectives, figuring out what the competition is, seeing them and understanding them, putting them into a game is going to make it easier for you. There's an anonymous question. Doesn't viewing life as a game devalue it, make you miss the deeper meaning? Yes. And again, this we address this out of the gate. Depends on the definition of the game that you use. So go back and listen to those first couple podcasts. We specifically talked about the fact that if you just use the term game like tic-tac-toe and Monopoly and Candyland, and that's what life is, it's devaluing it. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the game as something with structure, something with rules, something with objectives, something that other people are playing. That's what we're talking about. Like the deepest meaning of game is when we use this. I bet that person just saw the little Twitter picture that I put up that said life is a game and said like, oh, you're devaluing it, and didn't actually listen to the podcast. So someone said the nickening. Life is life. One way to look at it as if it were a game. Make no mistake, it's not. There are consequences. Again, this is the same thing. If you listen to the podcast, you'll realize that this is just not what we were talking about. Dean says, choosing what games you play is a liberating thought, but what about the games you don't have a choice to play in? Could failing to recognize you are playing certain games be a costly blind spot if failures in these areas are being ignored? Basic needs aside, example tech skills. Yes, this is 100% right. Anytime you're failing to recognize that you're in a game, you're not going to be playing that game correctly, and you stand to lose. And in some cases, you stand to lose a lot. So please be careful of that. Trent says, how do you decide if you're in the wrong game? And if you think you're in the wrong game, what do? I'm an attorney that's been practicing for 1.5 years. Can't figure out if I actually hate it or if I'm just getting used to it. All right. So let's detach. Let's think about the return on investment. This is another one of those things where, like, that first year, I don't know much about being a lawyer, but I guarantee when you first start practicing, it takes you a lot longer to prepare for a case because you don't know what you're doing and you don't have any assistance yet. And so for you to prepare for court tomorrow, it takes you 9 hours today. You get a little bit more experience. You're like, oh yeah, I've done a case like this before. My assistant's going to handle that. And all of a sudden it takes you 2 hours and you can go to jiu-jitsu.
Sure.
Which is kind of what your boss is saying. Like, you're just getting used to it. Now, I could be wrong. And the life of the lawyer is just, 14-hour days every day, no jiu-jitsu, no working out, sitting in an office, which sucks. So I would detach. I would look at the return on investment, right? Because that's another thing is, used to be like a lawyer. If you were a lawyer, you were going to make a shit ton of money until there was 8 million, until everyone thought that. And then there's 8 million lawyers. I don't know how many lawyers there are, but there's a lot of lawyers. There's high supply, which means demand is lower, which means it's harder to get those really good paying gigs if you're a lawyer. You can get great gigs as a lawyer. One thing I know about lawyers that I know that are good lawyers, they love it. They love it. They love like looking at the case and figuring out and figure ways to maneuver and looking at a contract where they love it. They love doing it. They're like, hey, I got something for you. They're like, hey, we're looking at this deal. Boom. And they love it. So if I'm a little nervous when you say that you've been doing this and you kind of hate it, right? Like I was in the SEAL teams.
You were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, if someone doesn't like humping with a ruck on, if you don't like, in fact, if you hate that, it's probably not a good job for you. You know what I'm saying?
I do know.
Like,
what you're
that
saying,
is like part of your job is to put a freaking heavy rucksack on and hump.
Yeah.
Through the desert, through the woods, up the mountain, whatever. It sucks. And if you hate it, probably not a great job. So when you're a lawyer and you got to look through documents and you got to pull up old precedences from the freaking whatever, and you don't love doing that. You don't love that little good gratification that you get when you pull a maneuver on the other counsel.
Yeah.
Yeah. That can be, it's probably not a great job for you. If you're one of those people that watched like law shows, right?
Yeah.
And you loved watching those cases come together and all that stuff.
Sure.
And then you get to do that, seems like you'd be into it.
Yeah.
But if you're like a year and a half into, you like, I freaking hate this. I think I hate this.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, bro. Now, listen, I would still get good enough at it that you start to get some momentum, right? Where you're like, okay, I can prepare these cases faster now, and I got my assistant to help me out, and you start going, okay, now that I have an assistant helping me, and I know what I'm doing, and I got a steady stream of clients, and I'm setting up my days better, and I hate this. Then it's time to do some strategic thinking, figure out, again, going back to figuring out what, not just what your values are, but what you actually value. Because there's some people, there's some people that they want to be like leader of the law world, right? That's what they want to be. They want to be the justice of the Supreme Court. Like, they want to do that stuff. Yeah. They're into it, man. They love being in that ecosystem. They love going to the country club. Yeah. And everyone knows it's freaking Echo Charles. He's got a big case. There's people that love that.
Yeah, fully.
There's people that like, I'm a lawyer.
Yeah.
So if that's where you're at, cool. If that's what you value, cool. If you're doing it for the money and you hate it, I'm going to say you might want to try and figure out some kind of an exit strategy over the next few years. Yeah. Don't rush into anything. Don't get crazy. But start trying to figure something else out. You obviously got skills. You're a lawyer. You can write. You can read. You're good at interacting with people. You can do a lot of different things. But let's what would be a good way of saying this? I was going to say finish the meal before you decide if you don't like it or not. But maybe it's more like, let's get good enough at it and make sure we spend enough time in it to do a real assessment. Like driving a car, I guess. You might get in a car and you're like, you go to start the car and the key's it doesn't even have a key anymore, by the way. It's got like a button and the button's not where you think it is. And so you're like, man, I don't like this car. Or you go to turn on the heat and it's like, where's the button? Right? Or when you switch from Apple to Mac or Mac to Apple and you're like, oh, this freaking Apple sucks. Or, oh, this Microsoft sucks. In Apple, you just drag the file over. Well, here you just right click it. You know what I mean? So you got to do it for long enough that you actually can do a real assessment and you're not just frustrated about the thing.
Yeah. You mentioned the finishing the meal thing. So I thought
that's a bad example because like for me, I can tell. I don't need to finish the meal, bro. Yeah. I take one bite and I'm like, this sucks. Yeah. I'm out.
But I mean, if you shift the analogy a little bit.
Matter of fact, if I smell it, I'm kind of like,
you just know.
Yeah.
Well, makes sense. Well, then again, I don't know. Parmesan cheese smells real bad, but tastes real good.
Does it smell bad?
Yeah. Small Parmesan cheese. Anyway, so think like this. How I think, according to some, not a lot, some of the lawyers that I've known and heard from, people who don't like it, thought they did or whatever. It's like consider crab. You don't eat seafood though, huh?
No.
Okay, so crab, right? King crab or whatever, colossal king crab. It's good if you like it. It's really good. So it's a good idea. Well, let's have crab for dinner, right? Bring it home. They serve the crab. It's like the crab has shells. For every crab leg, you got to take off the shell, and that's a pain in the ass. Unless you know the technique, and it's like, or you expected that and or whatever. But if you're not expecting all that, you're like, probably it's not even worth it. Like all I saw was the delicious crab on the commercial, and then now the reality of it, there's all this freaking work involved in it that I wasn't ready for. I wasn't anticipating. And the lawyer thing is the same thing where it's like, bro, I wasn't anticipating 12 hours a day, 7 days ago. I wasn't anticipating all this. And only I thought I was going to be freaking A Few Good Men, Tom Cruise, freaking You Can't Handle the Truth, all this stuff. Meanwhile, like literally 99.9% of my time is spent in an office reading stuff, going back to the books that I studied in law school or whatever, coming back to the case, and it's all paperwork. Like the whole thing is just paperwork. I didn't sign up for this, just like the crab shells. But I didn't know we had to crack every single shell and then meticulously get the crab meat out. Then you can have a small little morsel of crab.
But let's face it, there's some people that kind of get into that crab thing and they do it well. Exactly, and like, up in Maine, people like showing you how to do the lobster right. Like, you want to take the claw and break it over here. And they're fired up about that.
Agree. And that's why I use the crab, because I'm into that. The technique to get the crab out where you can get it out without like breaking it apart. Like there's technique to that and there's a payoff to that too.
And you kind of enjoy that little game.
It's kind of like a little fun game. Exactly right. And if you knew that that's involved in the whole process, it's like you're not surprised or blindsided by it. So it's like, yeah, you're embracing it. And boom, I love crab. Hell yeah, crab for dinner tonight.
Right on,
just like some people are like, hell yeah, lawyer all day.
You can name this podcast Crab for Dinner tonight.
Maybe I will.
All right, last question, and this will close out the game for now. It says, it's from Nick. How do you handle losing the game? For example, didn't get promotion, company didn't take off, bad investment. Does your game change? I think we all know the answer to this one. Didn't get the promotion, company didn't go the way I wanted it to, made a bad investment. Good. What did I learn? And what am I gonna do going forward? I just got better at the game. Didn't get promoted? Cool. I just got better. Because now I can figure out why I didn't get promoted. Company didn't take off? Cool. I learned something about how and why this went down. And I won't make that mistake again. Bad investment? Great. Now I know to be a little bit more methodical. So that's what I'm doing when I lose a game. And that's that. For now, on the game. Man, that went a lot. The 4 podcasts about the game, that's a lot.
Went deep.
It's important, though.
I wouldn't look at these I would look at them, what he's talking about anyway, as setbacks more so than losing the game. You know, like not getting a promotion the whole game of life. That's a setback.
You got scored on.
Yeah. And actually even, if you got fired and now you have to find a new career, I think that's like getting scored on or whatever.
If you got not just fired, but you got fired and you got disbarred from that industry.
Yeah, that's like you got scored on. But you can come back and you can totally be a winner.
Depends on what game too, because in a basketball game you get scored on, it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
In football, it's a little bit. In soccer, it's a big ass deal.
Yeah, it's a huge deal, right? Bro. Huge. Yeah, it's true. So look at it as in terms of man, this is a life, and jiu-jitsu is a really good one like that. Weightlifting is a really good example of that, where it's like, bro, you're going to take these little small L's, like in the whole grand scheme of things, probably every single day you're going to take these. But then for every step back, it's like, man, if you can, and you got to actively do this, where if you can take that one step back into like a step and a half forward. Now you know what that took to lose. You know what you did right, wrong, hopefully, if you're pursuing it. And boom, now you can make that step forward next time you get challenged with whatever challenge is that devastated you before, whatever. Now you're ready for that.
That's it.
You don't fall into that little pitfall and keep moving forward. But yeah, I wouldn't look at it as like I lost.
Yeah.
A lot, like losing the game of life is like if you'd be considered by your general community as a loser. So that's a good little test there.
Yeah, which you're not. If you didn't get promoted or you didn't do great on a freaking investment, no factor.
Yeah.
All right. With that, for everybody, if you want to get the physical game going, let's go Jocko Fuel, JockoFuel.com. We got the ready to drink Molk, which I had one. Got done training, which you did not participate in, by the way.
No, that was.
What was it? Why not?
What's funny is I knew you were going to ask me this.
Nothing funny about it.
No. Well, it's interesting.
Did you get a little bit disappointed when you saw that it was kind of some real good training that you missed?
Yeah. So in the moment. So a lot of the time you're like, oh, let's go train. And I'm like, the chance of me really going, because I'm already I'm on this path. Like I have a hard time, and you know this about me, where I have a hard time shifting my mental momentum, So it's like, bro, why you're asking me about training right now? I'm really focused on this thing. So it's not like I'm not going to go, but right now I'm not going to make the decision to go or not. Right? Yep. So now when tomorrow comes to train, it's kind of like it's up in the air. And don't let me get started on something that day. So whatever. But this time I was like, you were like, oh, training before. And I was like, oh yeah, because I missed a lot of training. I see you guys taking pictures, the FOMO. You ever get that? Pictures of Dean and guys, they trained all good. And you're like, I didn't make it. Anyway. And I seen Keenan guys were starting to come too. I was like, oh man, okay. So tomorrow I'm going to go. It's like, that's the plan. And then I got caught up late at night last night.
Because I tried to let you know early enough.
Yeah, you did the right thing. You totally did the right thing. And then, I got caught up late at night doing some stuff. And I made the decision last night, like, oh man, I don't know if I'm going to go train. If I'm going to continue on this path last night, which I did. When I woke up, I was like, I'm not training at all. But I did feel it when I came in and seen you guys, the post-training scene.
Yeah.
Everyone's all sweaty, sweat on the ground. You're talking. One or two guys might be. They're not breathing hard, but you can tell they were just breathing hard. You know, it's like a vibe. You know.
Yeah.
Right. And then I walk out there on the mat to say hi to everybody, and I'm wearing my regular clothes. You know, like right. You know that feeling, right? Everyone trained except for me. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I felt it. I kind of felt it more than I usually do today.
Yep.
So
Dave was there. Greg trained. Sloan was there. Miha's there.
Yeah. Wait, Dave. Dave who?
Yeah, Dave.
Youngworth.
Yeah.
Oh, for real? Oh, I didn't even see him. Okay. Greg Train was here too?
Greg Train was here.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's brutal.
Who else? Yeah. Miha, Keenan,
Sloan, Victor,
Adam, Victor. Andy Burke. See, we had a crew, bro. Where were you at?
It hurt. So, yeah, well, actually, the good news, that is probably a good catalyst to, kind of nudge me back into the scene, you know? Because, like I said before, now, for a few times, like the past, my training has been all like day of, like, oh shoot, training's going on right now. If I leave right now, I can and then I'll go. It won't be like, okay, tomorrow my schedule is this. I'm gonna train. It's never been that. I mean, it hasn't been that for a while. So maybe it'll change now.
So when I got done training,
sure, yes.
And by the way, I have not eaten today, other than I had some almonds. So what time is it right now? I don't know, but we're closer to dinner than we are to lunch.
Yeah.
We'll say that. Yeah. And I haven't eaten today. So I got done. You know, I lifted this morning and then came here, trained, and I haven't eaten. So as soon as I was done training, I was like, I got to get that little milk. Yeah. The thing that's great, too, you're getting 30 grams of just good, clean protein that's going straight to your recovery.
Yep. 30.
It's 30 grams of just luscious protein.
It is.
You can kind of feel it. You know, I know it's like placebo effect.
Yeah.
But I kind of feel it when I drink it. I'm like, yeah, I'm coming back. I'm getting.
Your body's not going catabolic anymore. Oh, yeah. I would think that if you're working out, then training and still not eating yet, and when you do eat, I would think you could feel it. I'm sure there's all kinds of biological indicators.
Remember I was talking earlier about, like, there was a company that wanted me to work with them, and they made something that was like addictive and bad for you.
Yeah.
But we made something, it's a little bit the same. It's addictive, but it's good for you. Because that's the thing with the RTD. It's good to have them. You just get them and have them.
Yeah.
Because it's such a nice thing to be able to satisfy your hunger and provide good fuel for rebuilding and have something that tastes freaking delicious.
Yep. Well, you know,
shouldn't this be a Nobel Prize scenario? Honestly? Honestly, shouldn't that be a Nobel Prize? Is there a Nobel Prize for food?
Well, you know, I don't know, and I don't know.
Or for just mankind, just for mankind.
Yeah. Hey, I don't know. You might have something.
The milk.
Yeah, the Nobel Prize.
A Nobel Prize for milk.
Yeah. Makes sense.
So check it out, jockofuel.com. You can get that. You get the joint warfare. Look, you're gonna need the joint warfare.
Yeah.
At a certain point in your life, you're going to need the joint warfare. We got a lot. What's cool, the way you know joint warfare is good is the number of subscribers to joint warfare.
Yeah.
Like if you subscribe, people are like, yeah, I need that.
Yeah.
I need that. Same thing with Super Krill. You're going to need that. So jockofuel.com, you can get it there. You can also get the drinks at Wawa. By the way, you might have to look a little bit harder at Wawa for the drinks because there's, you know, that shelf is filled up a little bit. So get in there. Have a look. Don't get something that they put right in front of your face and then they want you to drink something that's bad for you.
Yeah.
Don't do that. You got to work a little bit. Look around, find the go and drink something that's freaking good for you. Something that's not going to give you type 2 diabetes.
Right. You know what that reminds me of right there? That thing you just said. You ever do a Google search? Mm-hmm. It's a regular Google search on whatever.
Yes, I've done a Google search before.
Yes, sir. Yes, I understand. And then, but the first 1, 2, sometimes 3 results have a little teeny tiny word next to it says sponsored or ad or whatever, right? It's like that's the first ones you see, right? You kind of got to skip those because the interests aren't aligned with you.
Yeah,
see what I'm saying?
Just paid money for that.
They paid money to get in front of your eyes or whatever. Eyeballs. It's not that it's the most relevant. So technically, you got to skip the conflict of interest ones and go to the most relevant from what or with what you're looking for.
Yeah,
that's the go right there at the shelves on the shelves.
That's the go on the shelves. That's when you go into Wawa, you got to just look around a little bit.
Okay.
Vitamin Shop. By the way, greens. Jocko greens. You know we sell a lot of product, right? Of all kinds. Our number one thing is greens.
Really?
Yes, Jocko greens. Because people realized as soon as you try them, you're like, oh, greens can taste good.
Yeah.
They don't have to taste like dirt and mud.
Yeah.
And they can actually have better ingredients and can be cheaper.
What's funny is
how is that?
Hey, man.
I'll tell you how.
When you do it right.
You need to do it right.
That's literally what my mom told me. The part where it's like, oh, greens don't have to taste like these actually taste good. And she's a green person. Like she's
green
down
machine.
for the greens. Yeah. Like she knows. She already accept the whole thing that, hey, greens taste like crap. That's all. That's cool. Yep. We'll mix it in a nice smoothie or something like this, or we'll just power through it.
Don't have to.
Yeah, nope, not anymore. She was like, oh, I was impressed. I was like,
yeah.
Damn.
So check out the greens. They actually taste good. Obviously, they're good for you. Like let's face it, we're not rolling back to the house after training being like, oh, I really want to get some broccoli.
No, typically no.
Where's that wheatgrass? Like you're not doing that, right? It's not happening.
No, sir, it's not.
And what's cool about these greens are, and you know what I've been doing lately? Lately, I've been taking the greens and having it as like, do you know what? This is coming from my wife. Do you know what a port is? It's a kind of wine.
Wine, yeah, port wine.
Yeah, it's a port wine. Yeah, but that's the thing about, my wife, like, I'm from America, bro. I'm uncultured. She's from England. She's like, she's way more cultured than me. But, she would be like, oh, maybe after dinner I'll get to port.
Sure.
Right?
Hell yeah.
I'm like, well, this is when I was, 25. I'm like, what is that? And she's like, a port. It's the wine that you have after dinner. And I was like, okay. So for me, greens is like a port. Like you eat dinner, and you want that nice little something just to kind of put you in the in the zone. You get your greens. It's like a port wine, right? Tastes good.
If you say so.
And
I can.
Wait, what are you gonna say it like that? Why are you gonna say it like I'm not right?
You know what?
I'm right.
You know what's really in your own way, bro? You are right, Jocko. You're right.
Do you not agree with me?
I can't put it this way. It's more so than I agree or disagree. I can't not agree with you. Put it that way.
There's the reason I thought if you ever seen a port wine, they look like they're thicker.
Yeah.
Am I right?
They are. Yeah, it's like a thing.
So that's what the greens are like.
Yeah,
the greens are and port is sweeter.
Yeah,
our greens are sweeter. They're sweetened with monk fruit. Like it's a real thing, bruh.
Yeah, you might have.
So let me just give you some advice. And by the way, then you go to sleep. And all that goodness is just rolling through your body as you're sleeping at night, just rebuilding you into a freaking monster.
You might have a point. You might be onto something. I will tell you that,
dude.
So do you drink it in like the glass? The port
I might do that today.
Glass.
I've never done that yet. I'm gonna get a port glass.
There you go. All right.
We're gonna make Jocko port glasses for greens.
All right.
There you go.
Boom. Report
going
back.
in and making them in America.
Boom.
You can get this stuff: military commissaries, Vitamin Shop, Hannaford's, Dash stores in Maryland, Wakefern, ShopRite, Circle K, HEB. Been killing HEB. Thank you, Texas, my people. Freaking HEB is stoked. Meyer up there in the Midwest, good to go. So check all those out. JockoFuel.com. We got you. Origin USA. I just posted a little thing today because we made 12,000 pieces last week in the various factories.
Damn.
When Pete and I shook hands, like, let's work together, I think we had 12 employees. We might have even had 8 employees when we originally shook hands. Mm-hmm. And we were making like 120 or 150 like jiu-jitsu gis a week.
Yeah. Damn.
Think about 12,000.
Yeah.
And by the way, this is the ramp up.
Yeah.
This is the ramp up. So OriginUSA.com, all the stuff is made in America, the best quality. We got hunt gear, jiu-jitsu gear, gis, rash guard, jeans, Delta 68s. All day. Boots, joggers. We got everything. OriginUSA.com. You're gonna need a gi. You're gonna need a rash guard. We got the comfort fit rash guards, which are like a little bit more chill,
more loose, like a dry fit.
A little bit more like a dry fit-ish.
Yeah.
So I normally don't like it's a little bit tight. You know what I mean? You know, when I used to compete a lot in the jiu-jitsu, I had the shirt that I wore a Guinness shirt. Like, that's what I would compete in.
Yeah.
That was my most low pro. Yeah. Like people would just be like, who is it? Because everyone else would be wearing some shit.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
The gear.
I'd be wearing a Guinness shirt.
Yeah. Yeah, that is.
Joel Tudor used to pull that off too. He'd compete in like a pair of Vans, like a Vans t-shirt.
Yeah, like a bigger one too.
Yeah, like all loose.
Just a t-shirt.
Yeah, just a t-shirt and a pair of Vans shorts.
Yeah,
that's what he was doing. Because people are unsuspecting. Like, who is this guy? Well, he thinks he's going to come out here and do something to me.
Yeah,
and then they get triangled. Yeah, or they get footlocked.
Yeah.
So there you go. OriginUSA.com.
Yep. Also, get what you need. Also, JockoStore.com. Jocko is the store.
Oh, okay.
It's called Jocko Store. Anyway, hey, look, we're playing this game. We're in this game. We're on the path on this game. This is how you're gonna improve and increase the chances of you being successful in this game. Mm-hmm. If you're on the path, you're gonna represent while you're on that path. That's where you can get your discipline equals freedom. Shirts, hats, hoodies, that kind of stuff. Better than merch, by the way. Merch is just, here, throw this on this shirt. God. No, it's not. It's like very wearable. A lot of people report back and say, hey, this not only has good stuff on it or whatever, but it's the best fitting clothes that I have.
Check.
It's true. JockoStore.com. We also have the Shirt Locker, which is a subscription service where you get a new shirt every month. Different designs, but still on the path, and you're representing big time. So a lot of people have been on that one and report good feedback on that one. So check it out if you like Jocko Store.
Subscribe to the podcast. Subscribe to JockoUnderground.com. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Subscribe to or go get Psychological Warfare. Check out Flipside Canvas. My brother Dakota Meyer got making cool stuff to hang on your wall. FlipsideCanvas.com. Got a bunch of books. You know what the books are. Go and check those books out. We've written a bunch of them. Echelon Front Leadership Consultancy. We solve problems through leadership. Go to echelonfront.com if you want to come to any of our events. We got Orlando, Florida, the muster. You just made a video today. Came out.
Yes, sir.
April 3rd through the 5th. And then we're doing Dallas, Texas. October 18th through the 20th. We also got a bunch of other things we do. FTX, we got Council, we got Battlefield. Next Battlefield is March 21st. It's 21st to the 23rd, but it's sold out. So look for the next thing we're going to do after that. That's all of that, echelonfront.com. We also have our online training program. I talked about that today. Extreme Ownership Academy. Go to extremeownership.com. Take courses, ask questions, get coached, get advice. Learn how to take ownership of your freaking life there, extremeownership.com. And if you want to help service members, active and retired, you want to help their families, you want to help Gold Star families, check out Mark Lee's mom, Mama Lee. She's got a charity organization. And if you want to donate or you want to get involved, go to americasmightywarriors.org. And also we got heroesandhorses.org. Micah Fink taking, right? Where's he doing right now? Oh, he just shot a bear with a bow and arrow and he's skinning it as he's riding his horse through the wilderness by himself. Or no, he's not by himself. Oh, no, he's got some veterans with him. And they're all out there finding the path. So there you go. Heroesandhorses.org. And if you want to connect with us on the interwebs, we're on there. Echo's at Echo Charles. I'm at Jocko Willink. Obviously, please just watch out for the algorithm. And thanks to the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines that are out there playing the game, the big game, to keep us safe. Thank you for your continued service. And the same thing for our police and law enforcement, firefighters, paramedics, EMTs, dispatchers, correctional officers, Border Patrol, Secret Service, and all first responders. Thank you for protecting us here at home. And to everyone else out there, just remember to take a step back. Take a step back, look at what's happening, and you're going to see there's a framework. There's a framework to a game that is being played, and you're probably going to be able to see 3, 4, or 5 of them. Figure out what that framework is. Figure out what the rules are. Figure out what the objectives are, and then play the game. And until next time, this is Echo and Jocko out.